Thanks for being here. This is Truth Seekers with your host, Stephen Campion. Please rate, like and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truth Seekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat room during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers.
My name is Lue Elizondo. For years now, I have claimed I ran a sensitive Pentagon UFO program. The truth is, I never ran a real Pentagon UFO program. I lied to the New York Times. I lied to TTSA investors. I lied to hundreds of show hosts and podcasters for profit for years. In my own paperwork with the Pentagon, I admitted that it was not a program but rather an activity. An activity that I pursued in my spare time while working at the Pentagon. In other words, while I was being paid to do real work for the Pentagon, I wasted taxpayer money and resources on my own personal hobby of being a UFO hunter. The program I claimed I was the director of never really existed. That's right, I declared myself the director of a program that had no funding and never officially existed. My own Pentagon personnel records confirm I had no assigned responsibilities around or involving UFOs. The truth is I was a Pentagon desk jockey. That was boring, so I created a whole fantasy world for myself where I was the director of a $22 million official program. I only ran a Pentagon-funded UFO program in the land of my own imagination. I'm the Pentagon UFO program manager from the land of make-believe.
What's the most compelling modern thing that you've seen?
Oh my God, Joe, I can't talk about it, but let me say this. One night, me and a bunch of the guys are playing strip poker, and all of a sudden I lose. So here I am, walking around base in high heels, along the outskirts, and everyone...
Oh, that sounds crazy.
So here I am, walking around base in high heels, along the outskirts...
I am not saying you're crazy, just the story.
No. You're good. And all of a sudden, this massive black craft floats above us, and I stop and stare at this craft, and next thing I know him on the craft. And all these aliens are having their way with me. It was a horrible experience, and I have the scars to prove it.
So these beings did butt stuff?
Yes. Oh man, Joe. Among many other fucked up things. I still can't sit comfortably, but that's a story for another day. As for the ass play, I really can't get into it because I am under contract to keep quiet. I can lose my top secret clearance, and I need that to keep my grift game going. I'm sure you can respect that.
Absolutely. Still digesting the butt stuff. Christ, Lou, the pain. You're dealing with good God, brother. It's tough.
Well, thank you for being so open-minded, Joe. That's why I came on your show today. You just want to listen, and I really needed that today. Sometimes I sit in the dark and just cry.
So these beings did butt stuff.
Oh my God, I can't talk about it, unfortunately. This is my frustration, Joe, because I know what I've seen. I know my colleagues have seen, right? And to this day, there's video that's coming in on a regular and routine basis that is very, very compelling.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. Mr. Lue Elizondo, the fake Pentagon UFO program director, who appointed himself the director of an imaginary program in the land of make-believe, then lied, in my opinion, lied to the New York Times, lied to hundreds of podcasters and show hosts and media organizations, news organizations, investors in Two Stars Academy and more, is back with a new book. And this kept bothering me when I was thinking about this situation. This man had, what, 6 or 7 years to spill the beans. And he never went this far as to say, oh, the government definitely has alien bodies and alien crash retrievals are real. He waited till he had a book to sell to suddenly come out with those revelations. Before he'd kind of dance around, we may not be alone in the universe, and all manner of dancing around. But it's interesting, now he's back doing, I suppose, the media tour. I always knew that he would eventually do Rogan because I'm told by a little birdie that Rogan uses Jeremy Corbell, who is a garbage peddling fantasist who's been caught selling completely and totally fake stories over and over and over again. But apparently, Mr. Rogan uses Corbell to get whoever he wants in UFO land in to talk, including Grush and others. And it kind of makes sense that that's true, though I don't know 100% for sure. I only have one source who told me that. Not sure. But I always knew that Elizondo would do Rogan, but knowing the profiteering nature of Elizondo, I knew he wouldn't do Rogan until he had a cash grab to do. And let's be very clear, and I'll admit this is my opinion, this is a cash grab. This guy had 6 or 7 years to spill these beans, and he waits until he has a book to sell to suddenly go way out there on a limb and tell everybody he has remote viewing superpowers. We'll get into that later tonight. And also to do Joe Rogan, which is the biggest podcast in the world. Interesting, though, the average Chris posted that Rogan and Elizondo are just getting destroyed in these comments. And many of the comments are, have the same tone, like, great, another bullshit artist storyteller with no evidence, but lots of stories. Who cares? And I just want to put on the record before we begin, I don't have anything against Joe Rogan. In fact, I have credited Rogan many times with sort of being one of the inspirational forces behind this show. Rogan gave this speech one time. I'm always trying to, every once in a while, I try to find this again, and I can't. So if you have a clip of this, I've tried, but Rogan once gave a sort of inspirational speech about if you're unhappy with your life, find something that you really want to do, and then go there every day and water that garden, for surely that garden will grow. And that's sort of, those words hit me right at a point I needed them to, right before I started this show. And I thought, okay, there's only 4 live viewers, but I'm watering the garden. And then in a few weeks more of watering the garden, there's 10 live viewers, and whatever. Months later, there's 100 live viewers. Years later, there's sometimes a few hundred live viewers. For surely I have come here and I have done my best to tend and water this garden. I credit Joe Rogan for that. And on every other guest, other than UFO people, I love to listen to Joe Rogan, but I can't listen to Joe Rogan talk to a UFO person because it just appears that Rogan does not understand that he is platforming huge grifters. That's what he's doing. Many of the people that he has platformed from UFO land have been caught time and time again, profiting from and promoting completely and totally, provably 100% fake stories. Chief among them, Jeremy Corbell, who is sort of his UFO guy connection, I suppose. So nothing against Rogan. I just wish that he would do more research. Platforming a guy who lied to the New York Times about actually running a Pentagon, being the director of a $22 million Pentagon UFO program, without challenging him about any of those false statements, is really disappointing to see. but I understand he's got a show to do. And I hear he just likes to talk about this stuff. And so that's why we see people like Jeremy Corbell or Joe, Billy Carson or some of these other people. He just doesn't understand the minutia of these people and their previous claims. So we're not going to cover the Rogan and Elizondo interview, but let me know in the comments or in the live chat, do you want me to go through that whole thing? Because there's plenty there that is just absolutely ridiculous false statements from Elizondo and a great deal of evidence-free stories. But tonight we'll be covering this interview with Ross Coulthart. And for those unaware, Ross Coulthart is a disgraced Australian journalist. I'm not going to say he was fired from 60 Minutes, but I can say his contract wasn't renewed from 60 Minutes Australia after promoting a completely and totally over-sensationalized story about the British Parliament and being child predators. And he named names in that story. It turns out that his so-called witnesses were nut jobs that were looking to sue people and make money from false claims of being assaulted as children. It was completely untrue, 100% untrue. And in fact, Media Watch slammed his story. And Media Watch has continued to slam his story. If you're a reporter and Media Watch is calling you out, then you're a disgraced journalist. Ross Coulthart has been caught selling completely and totally fake stories over and over and over again and again and again. And isn't it interesting that also Ross Coulthart is the person who primarily was behind the big David Grush push? And we have to take a moment to realize I've lost my old counter. I can't find those old graphics I used to make. I used to just update the day. But it's interesting to note that Lue Elizondo is going to Ross Coulthart. And let's be clear, if someone was a true and credible person, you don't go to a disgraced journalist who keeps getting caught selling completely and totally fake stories for an interview. You would refuse that kind of interview. But Lue Elizondo's story has been in slow motion. It's taken 6 or 7 years for his story to come completely and totally crashing down. So his options for a media tour to promote his garbage book are pretty limited. It's no surprise to me that he's going to Ross Coulthart. Remember, Ross Coulthart's also the guy who claims he knows where a giant spaceship is, but he can't tell us. Remember that? And then there was the Patchgate story. I haven't, but I will put in the description of the video our previous coverage of all the fake stories that Ross Coulthart has been caught selling, some of which we caught him selling. And I'll take the credit for a few of them, not the Pedogate story, but many of the others involving UFOs. We've busted him for selling completely and totally 100% provably fake stories. So why would Lue Elizondo, if he's actually on the level and credible, go to a guy who's been caught selling many completely and totally fake stories? Well, the answer is very clear. Lue Elizondo is a garbage peddling, evidence-free storyteller. In other words, a bullshitter. And who better to go to than somebody who makes their living? And by the way, this weekend I had an incredible conversation with a source that I can't name, but worked very closely with many of these people. And I got to tell you, what a conversation. I'm hoping that person will be going on the record. In fact, I know they will be going on the record. And what they told me is absolutely astonishing. Among other revelations is that Lue Elizondo has done that recruitment thing. Remember how he tried to recruit Jeremy McGowan, telling him he was going to be a hero of disclosure and all these other things, but he was always completely, totally focused on getting TV show deals and book deals and, money deals. So some UFO messiah, he really cares about the truth. No, he cares about the cash. He's here for the money. Let's be clear. He's here for the money. He's not here for anything else. He doesn't care about the truth. If he did, he wouldn't get caught lying so much. Or at the very least, he wouldn't be caught with all of these inconsistent stories. And he can't even keep his own story straight. Oh, I joined ATIP this year. Oh, I was the director of ATIP. No, I was just a key player. I was recruited into ATIP. This man can't get his story straight. You know who else can't keep their story straight? Liars. Liars have trouble because they forget when they lie before. It's hard to keep track of all those lies in your noggin. So eventually you're going to make mistakes and say something differently than you said it the first time. The truth doesn't change, but a lie does. And also take a moment to recognize that the truth does not require your participation. You don't have to participate in the honest proof that Lue Elizondo never ran a Pentagon UFO program. Full stop. You don't have to participate in that. That's the truth. And the truth is just the truth. It doesn't require your participation. But if you want to go into a strange rabbit hole and enter a delusional fairy tale world of lies and embellishments and exaggerations and nothing burger evidence-free stories, you have to participate in that because a lie requires your participation. So any of you people foolish enough to believe that this man ran a Pentagon UFO program, you're participating in a lie. Congratulations. But the truth doesn't require your participation, and we're going to bring it to you tonight. Now, I want to take a moment before we do to remind people that Lue Elizondo is doing interviews with Ross Coulthart, and Ross Coulthart is the disgraced Australian journalist who brought us the Dave Grush story. And it has now been 448 days now with zero evidence of Dave Grush's claims. So it's been 448 days, and neither the debrief or Ross Coulthart or any of the people that promoted Grush's story and profited from it, including Yes Theory and all those others. You remember, it was a big story. Everybody was jumping in to interview this guy and get their piece of the money. And by the way, I have the spreadsheet. I have made a spreadsheet which definitively and 100% with math that anybody else can do proves that the people who promoted and profited from this bullshitter collectively made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in monetized views on YouTube. I've done the math. I've got the spreadsheet. I'm going to be sharing that, but not this evening. We'll wait until a development in the Grush story to drop that bit on you. Now, remember, I got attacked viciously by some Kool-Aid drinking cult members. You keep saying that they made all this money. You can't prove it. I've got the proof. Anybody who could do third grade math can add up all those monetized views. And even if you use a very low CPM rate, like $8 per 1,000 views, in other words, for every 1,000 monetized views these people promoting this story got, they made $8. Then you just add up how many thousands of views did they get, or millions of views, and you come to a figure. Then I've put them all on a spreadsheet. News Nation made the most money. Well, News Nation and Joe Rogan, I believe, made the most money. But of course, we've got Tucker Carlson with millions of monetized Twitter views as well. We've got Yes Theory and everybody else that was pumping up and promoting this absolute former mental patient bullshitter who for 448 days now has provided nothing, no proof whatsoever. Just trust me, bro. The aliens are here. The government has the aliens. They got alien biologics. And my favorite of his claims is that interdimensional space monsters are murdering Earthlings. He said that under oath. I think it was under oath, either under oath or in the News Nation original interview, which is absolutely ridiculous. He's provided zero evidence after 448 days. Now I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to make a prediction. We will reach 448 days post the publication of Lue Elizondo's book, and he will have not proven any of these claims, such as the government has alien bodies, the government has alien spacecraft. Just like this guy, I predict we will reach 448 days from, let's just say from today. And Lue Elizondo will never prove any of that because I know where he's getting his information from. He's getting it from the same place this bullshitter did. People like Eric Davis, people like Hal Puthoff, and all of these other people. It's the same core group of assholes that have been telling the same story over and over and over again, repeating it, telling their friends, Pete. It becomes a game of telephone, right? Where the details keep getting changed, the stories keep getting grander. But one thing they never get to is the actual evidence. We always think, some of these people think, wow, we're making real progress and that dam is about to break. No, it's not. Because in order to break the dam, you need actual evidence. Stories aren't going to cut it. You're not getting into that blue room to see the aliens unless you have smoking gun evidence or proof. And isn't it funny how millions of dollars are generated from what has been called a very lucrative industry by some of the people in it? Most notably, Corey Goode, who in a courtroom deposition claimed that the UFO and disclosure movement was a, quote, billion-dollar industry. I'm not sure if he's right, but if you add up the millions of dollars that everybody's making, let's see, James Fox, Stephen Greer, TTSA, many, many other people, Linda Moulton Howe, I don't know, Third Phase of Clowns, all of these entertainment projects, UFOtainment, collectively, sure, they've probably hit $1 billion. So maybe Corey Goode was correct about one thing he said. He lied about everything else, but maybe he was correct in saying that the UFO and disclosure industry is a $1 billion industry. So no surprise to me that Lue Elizondo goes to the same guy who sold this fake story. And yeah, I'm calling it a fake story. Or let's just say sold this evidence-free story. Lots of stories. Oh, did you get your disclosure boner hard from this guy? And I warned you at the time, 448 days have passed. I warned everyone from the moment I saw this man, he will never provide evidence. He will never provide any proof. And the reason I was so confident about that is because I knew who was feeding him this bullshit. And isn't it interesting that the same people that fed this guy the BS fed it to Lue Elizondo too? And in his book, he says how Puthoff said many, many times. How Puthoff is at the core of so much of this crap. The Skinwalker crap, Dave Grush crap, Lue Elizondo crap. It's all crap because it comes from Puthoff, a man who believed that Uri Geller had real superpowers and wasted how much in research funds, and then determined that Uri Geller had superpowers. No, Uri Geller was using children's magic tricks, and I know that. And Uri Geller, Hal Puthoff was also fooled by a man named Banachek, who was sent in specifically to fool him and did. And right now, Banachek is a Las Vegas mentalist who does a magic show about mind tricks. He's an incredible individual. He fooled Hal Puthoff into believing that he had real superpowers. How did he do it? Magic tricks. Hal Puthoff also claimed that he got superpowers of his own while he was doing Scientology. And he was once a high-ranking, him and his wife, high-ranking Scientology people. They believe in that Xanadu and the body thetans and all of that, the volcanoes and the human souls. In other words, Hal Puthoff is a complete and total wackadoo who's been into everything from free energy to psychic superpowers to poltergeists to UFOs. But guess what he's never done? He's never proven anything. He is a garbage peddling pseudoscientist huckster and is regarded as such by any real scientists. Go ask some. Nobody believes that Hal Puthoff is credible except for UFO wackadoos like his disclosure boner ready stories. Get that boner hard, man. Just listen to Hal Puthoff. He'll tell you Roswell was real, psychic powers are real, remote viewing is real. He just never proves anything. And it's the same clown standing behind both these clowns, David Grush and Lue Elizondo. It's the same guy feeding them the stories that they're just repeating. And Hal Puthoff has no evidence because for decades now, he has proven nothing. So I'll go out on a limb here and tell you that Lue Elizondo will not prove any of these alien body claims, any of these recovered alien spacecraft claims, he won't prove that for the next 448 days. We're going to start a new counter. Today, we'll say it's been 1 day. Well, I got to find the actual original publication date of his book. And we're going to go from that date. And that's where we're going to run the timer. And we're going to run a timer on both these UFO huckster bullshitters who keep making these claims, right? Oh, no, trust me, the government's got the alien bodies. There's alien space monsters, and they're murdering humans on Earth. Wouldn't you think that's goddamn important? Like, if there's interdimensional space monsters murdering Earthlings like this guy says, isn't that pretty goddamn important? And you better drop the evidence and make sure everybody is on the same page. Because if this is true, we better start preparing to battle these interdimensional space monsters. It's all a childish, ridiculous, evidence-free story. That's what we get here. And I'm sorry to be the Debbie Downer all the time. You know, I was talking to a friend who told me, and I've used this analogy several times. He said, Stephen, you're like the guy that comes into the party and everybody's having a good time, and you just drop your pants and you shit all over the party. And then you just ruin it for everybody. Yeah, I'm sorry. Does the truth ruin your disclosure boners? I'm sorry if I'm ruining your disclosure boner. But these things are, fantastical claims require fantastical proof. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. Famous quote, right? Not only do these guys not have extraordinary proof, they don't have any proof. They've got evidence-free, trust me, bro, somebody told me stories. So it's largely second and third hand accounts, and you never get any documents except for fake ones or misrepresented ones. We'll get into that. Elizondo misrepresents documents to be something that they are not. And both Lue Elizondo and this guy promoted a completely and totally fake UFO case out of Italy that involved William Brophy, who is a proven UFO profiteer, huckster, hoaxer, garbage peddler. He's also the huckster and promoter and hoaxer behind the Trinity fake UFO crash case. And that's proven definitively that Trinity case is fake. Jacques Vallée still hasn't taken his book off of Amazon and still doubling down. He is desperately clinging to the belief that he didn't get fooled. Yes, he did. Everybody could get fooled, including Jacques Vallée. And I know a lot of people respect him, but come on. If you're going to take the word of William Brophy and you don't do adequate research, you deserve to get caught selling a completely and totally fake story for money. And that's what happened with Jacques Vallée, who, by the way, is another person that these people cite, a guy who got fooled by hucksters and hoaxers. But I have some notes here and thoughts on Mr. Lue Elizondo that we're going to go through before we get to the actual interview between Luis Elizondo and Ross Coulthart, disgraced journalists. So Lue Elizondo and the so-called UFO program, I consider this a skeptical examination. Lue Elizondo, a former intelligence officer, gained significant media attention after claiming to have headed the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or ATIP, a program he claimed was a secret and sensitive government initiative, which he alleged focused on investigating unidentified flying objects. Elizondo, through essentially manipulating and lying to members of the media, including most famously the New York Times article, which in 2017 kicked off this whole UFO craze based on lies. Remember, all of this UAP, everything UAP started on Lue Elizondo's lies. So, based on a completely and totally made up fake resume, Elizondo positioned himself as a whistleblower of sorts, and he was going to reveal the government's knowledge of extraterrestrial life and technology. However, a critical examination of his claims, especially those about running an official Pentagon UFO program, concludes that he made that all up. Lue Elizondo never ran an official or funded or real Pentagon UFO program. What he did was waste taxpayer money pursuing what was a hobby for him while he was assigned with other responsibilities. And in fact, paperwork from his own personnel file show that he had no assigned responsibilities involving a program called ATIP. He had no assigned responsibilities involving UFOs or UAPs, and he had no responsibilities for investigating anything UFO, alien, or UAP. He made that all up. And in fact, he would admit in his own paperwork to the Intelligence Community Inspector General that what he did wasn't really a program, it was more of an activity. In other words, a hobby, like a dart club or a bowling league. But in this case, Lue Elizondo essentially admitted to misappropriating taxpayer money to fund his own ridiculous hobby of hunting UFOs in his spare time at the Pentagon. But that's what kind of a person he is. He was tasked with doing certain things at the Pentagon, and instead of doing his real job, I suppose he was wasting his time and taxpayer money funding his salary to do other things on a hunt for aliens, UFOs, and interdimensional space monsters, as we'll see. Most troubling is when we get to, the fact that he pretends that he was going to be revealing the government's knowledge of extraterrestrial life and technology. I mentioned that I spoke with a very good source this weekend who confirmed for me that all of the material that Lue Elizondo shows, even people he's pitching big projects like television shows and documentary projects to, are essentially hoaxes and garbage that he cobbled together from the internet. In other words, he has no actual insider knowledge other than his stories of becoming involved with OSAP. But when asked for proof of aliens, crash retrievals, extraterrestrial visitation, he basically shows people garbage from the internet that he pretends, I suppose, that he got while working as an insider into the government. But as we can see with his promotion of this fake Italian Mussolini UFO crash case, these are all things that he got from the internet that anybody can get. In other words, he has no insider knowledge. So what we get with Mr. Elizondo is a bait and switch. So, my friends, a critical examination of his many claims, especially his most recent assertions that the U.S. government possesses alien bodies, reveals a pattern of evidence-free statements that mirrors similar unsubstantiated claims made by figures like Bob Lazar and David Grush. If we take a closer look at his claims, what we find out is that Elizondo first entered the public eye in 2017 when he claimed to have run ATIP, a Pentagon program that supposedly studied UFOs. While some claim there is documentation to prove that such a program existed, the Pentagon has continually denied that Mr. Elizondo had any involvement in any program around UFOs or any program such as OSAP or ATIP. He had no assigned responsibilities that relate to that. So the Department of Defense has distanced itself from Elizondo's claims, stating that ATIP was not a funded or official program, as Mr. Elizondo claimed. In other words, he lied to us all. Despite this, Elizondo has continued to make increasingly bold claims, especially now that he has a book to sell. And isn't it a coincidence that his claims became increasingly more bold leading up to the book that he has to sell? So his bold claims, including that the U.S. government is in possession of alien technology and even alien bodies, are mostly based on anecdotes or stories people told him. And the people who told him these stories are less than credible wackadoos who have been often discredited as fantasticists and bullshitters. Similar to Elizondo, David Grush, another former intelligence officer, made headlines in 2023 with his allegations that the US government had retrieved and reverse engineered alien spacecraft. And like Mr. Lue Elizondo, David Grush's source of sources are all the same people. It's very clear now that they are both drawing from the same bunch of bullshitters. Grush's claims, like Elizondo's, have met with skepticism due to the complete lack of verifiable evidence. After 448 days since Grush's initial statements, no evidence whatsoever has been presented to substantiate his claims. Next, we get to Elizondo and his claims of having superpowers. A lot of people here know, I have a keen interest in people that make claims of having psychic superpowers, having formerly been a stage magician and mentalist, a professional at that. I have investigated perhaps hundreds of people who claim to have psychic superpowers. And what those investigations taught me is that superpowers aren't real. And in fact, as open-minded as I try to be, as soon as an individual begins claiming to have superpowers, I instantly lose interest and consider them a wackadoo. Because despite investigating, and I mean really thoroughly investigating, even testing in some cases, people who claim to have psychic superpowers, I've never found a genuine person doing anything that I could not explain by trickery, deceit, cold reading, or other methods that these shysters use. So when people start talking about their superpowers, instantly to me, they lose all credibility. Elizondo has claimed to possess remote viewing abilities, suggesting that he was trained by the government in this supposed psychic skill. Remote viewing is the ability to perceive distant or unseen targets using the mind alone, and it was popularized during the Cold War era. There were real programs like the CIA's Project Stargate, which attempted to use remote viewing for military intelligence purposes. But these efforts were ultimately deemed worthless and unsuccessful. Scientific studies on remote viewing have consistently found that it lacks any validity beyond chance. In other words, you can put somebody just guessing next to somebody who claims that they have remote viewing superpowers, and their accuracy or hit rate will be about the same. In a very good example, a 1995 evaluation by the American Institutes for Research, I will include that study in the description of the video at the conclusion of our broadcast. That research study concluded that remote viewing had no practical applications, and its results were indistinguishable from guessing. Furthermore, a review by psychologist Ray Hyman found that remote viewing experiments were plagued by methodological flaws, and that results could be attributed to sensory cues or outright fraud and deception and trickery, rather than a test subject actually having real psychic abilities. Historical examples further illustrate the lack of credibility in remote viewing claims. In the 1970s, well-known, world-famous, some would say, psychic, I put psychic in quotes, Uri Geller was tested by researchers at the Stanford Research Institute. Who ran that? Hal Puthoff, the source of Lue Elizondo and David Grush's alien and UFO claims. So we have Hal Puthoff at the Stanford Research Institute wasting money studying Uri Geller. And Hal Puthoff and the Stanford Research Institute initially reported positive results. However, further scrutiny revealed that Uri Geller's apparent successes were likely the result of trickery and deception rather than any real, measurable paranormal ability. The broader scientific community remains intensely skeptical of remote viewing, regarding it as a pseudoscience rather than a legitimate field of study. So isn't it interesting that Lue Elizondo would claim that he has superpowers that real scientists say, this is bullshit? And by the way, I just want to put that on the record as well. I have several times, I have offered people who claim to have superpowers $10,000 to prove their superpowers. I still have the money because nobody's claimed it. Do you know why? Because nobody can prove that superpowers are real. I live in the real world where superpowers aren't real. And by the way, I grew up reading comics. I would love it The world would be a much more interesting place if psychics were real and superpowers were real and remote viewing was real. It's not. So I will make a public declaration and challenge to Lue Elizondo. I have a billet in my office here. A billet is a little slip of paper. There's something written on it. We'll do this more properly at another time. But for now, it's enough to say I will give Lue Elizondo, who, by the way, keeps crying poor, right? He keeps claiming that he doesn't have any money. He's not making any money from this, which is a completely and totally bold-faced lie and factual. It's not factual that he hasn't made any money, and we can prove that. But however, he keeps crying poor. I'll show you the funny proof of that. I will give Lue Elizondo $10,000. All he has to do is remote view what's on that billet, what's on that little slip of paper in a glass case. That also includes the $10,000. If he can tell me what's on that billet, and by the way, I will share what's on that billet with 2 trusted members of the community who will not divulge it under any circumstances until Lue Elizondo makes his attempt. By the way, you get one crack at it. You don't get multiple guesses. You get one chance to read what's on that billet. And by the way, I will move that billet with the little slip of paper and the $10,000 into a secure bank facility with a safe deposit box. I'll put it in there. So according to Lue Elizondo, remote viewing superpowers are real. Prove it. Prove it, you bullshitting liar. You mean to tell me you couldn't use 10 grand? You're crying poor and claiming that you got to live in a trailer, right? And by the way, it's a really nice RV trailer. It's not like an old beat up camping trailer. And I think we found out from Area 503 that Lue Elizondo owns multiple homes. So all this talk about being broke and living in a trailer, it's a smokescreen. He's not broke and he's not living in a trailer, at least not full time. Why would you if you own multiple homes, right? Now, his situation may have changed. I don't know. But here's an interesting factoid about Lue Elizondo crying poor. And hey, I'm a helpful guy. He claims he has superpowers. I want to help him out. If he can prove his superpowers are real by remote viewing what's on that billet in that bank, security box, I'll give him $10,000. I'm a man of my word. I swear on my parents' grave and my grandparents' grave, if he gets it right, I will tell the truth and I will give him the $10,000. But here's something. Lue Elizondo says, you have had 7 years of my efforts for free, which have nearly bankrupted me and my family, and lived in a trailer for nearly 2 years. Never asked for a dime from you. Don't want to read my book? Please don't buy it. It's my unfiltered experience, not asking you to buy or do anything. But here's the problem. Lue Elizondo, you got paid to be a member and part of TTSA, which took $2 million plus, I believe, right? And I'm going from memory, so pardon me if my number's off. It's several $1 million, nearest I recall, was collected from the UFO community based on your promises. You and your buddies told everybody you were going to build a spaceship with a revolutionary power source that would change the world. You and your buddies claimed to be in possession of exotic materials, which may be from UFO crash retrievals, right? Oh, that turned out to be a missile casing. You lying, deceptive bullshitter. You lied to investors, you and your buddies. Clearly, you lied to investors just based on claiming that you were going to build a spaceship and you never did. What happened to all that money? Millions of dollars. How much of that money were you paid? And you're going to sit here and say you have had 7 years of my efforts for free? How much did you get paid for the Unidentified show? But clearly you got paid to be on a television show. How much did you get paid for every speaking engagement? You did speaking engagements with Richard Dolan during COVID online. That was like $500, I believe, as best I recall, to watch you and a bunch of other UFO profiteering clowns tell stories with mostly no evidence, right? How much did you get paid for that? You mean to tell me that you did that? You did all this out of the goodness of your heart, right? You were in TTSA and you didn't get any money for that after millions of dollars were collected? You mean to tell me that you were on a television show and you never got one check? Even if you got one check, You're a goddamn liar, Lue Elizondo. Why are you lying to everybody saying that you did all this for free? How much did you get paid for the book deal? There was reports that there was a $250,000 advance offered, right? Wasn't there media reports of that? Or at least six figures, right? Oh, you did all this for free. You did it all for free, Lue Elizondo. How nice of you. And while he's crying poor and claiming that he's living in a trailer for 2 years, he's on Joe Rogan wearing a $10,000 watch. And thanks to Dogbert, Detective Dogbert, if we want to be formal here. And I wrote, compare and contrast this. Elizondo lying through his teeth, claiming he hasn't made any money, and him wearing an $8,000 to $10,000 Rolex watch on Rogan. Elizondo on Rogan was wearing a Rolex Explorer 2. Go look it up. How much is that watch? You're really going to cry poor, Lue Elizondo? And hey, let's not forget that him and his supporters are saying every member of Congress needs to read this book, even though there's no evidence in it, right? It's just stories. Oh, so they started a GoFundMe to buy books that they're going to give to members of Congress. Why can't Lue Elizondo just give each member of Congress a book? Why can't he do that if he's doing this all for free? No, this is all about profit. And that GoFundMe is a way to make his followers. They're encouraging followers. Don't just buy one book and then donate the cost of one book to the GoFundMe so we can give every member of Congress this book. That's a way to get his followers to buy 2 books instead of 1. It's brilliant, man. What a grift. This is Griftonomics 101. You lie to your followers and say, I did all this for free. I never got paid for that TV show or that TTSA deal. Never got paid nothing. I never made any money for all those speaking engagements. Never made any money at the what is that? That UAP science organization? That's a joke, right? That bans anybody that tells the truth about Elizondo and Ross Coulthart. UAP, the Coalition for UAP Studies, I think. Remember those clowns? They banned me from their Facebook group for saying Lue Elizondo never ran a Pentagon UFO program for that was funded or official. And by the way, that's a fact. So what kind of science organization is banning journalists? But I'm in good company because they also banned Stephen Greenstreet for telling the truth about this clown wearing a Rolex, crying poor, buy 2 books, not 1. This is where we're at. This is the clown show that is Lue Elizondo and friends, right? It's wonderful, friends. So we're going to get into the video. I'm going to put my fair use banner. But before I do, we want to recognize some kind and generous friends. Remember, we're a viewer-supported show, and I'm not living in a trailer or crying poor, but we could use your support. That's for sure. All funds that are sent to the show are used to support the show. And we thank you very much. We have kind and generous Christopher Wester, who's also a member with £5, or is that euro? I can never get these things right. But what is Sarfati's, Puthoff's, and Mellon's endgame? That's the real question. Or is it remnants of the CIA's LSD party MK Ultra reference? You know, I've often thought that, and it's funny. I've asked Jack Sarfati to come here, and he said he would, and then he sent me like hundreds, well, not hundreds, probably tens of emails of completely, totally fake shit. Like totally, you remember that video of the alien that was being interviewed that was CGI? He sent me that. He sent me all this fake nonsense. I don't know what the end game is, Crystal Wester. I wish I knew. I think it's a group of people who desperately want to believe this shit, and they've wasted decades of their life on this, so they can't admit it's all fake. That's my take. And it's what has been described by Sean Kirkpatrick as a self-licking ice cream cone. By the way, pardon me. I mentioned a source that I spoke with over the weekend. And it appears that Sean Kirkpatrick will be making a great many more revelations about all of this situation. And if you're one of the people that are tired of these clowns making all this money lying to everybody, I got to tell you to buckle up and stay tuned, because there's going to be a lot more coming from one Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. And I think he's their worst nightmare, because essentially when you hear the inside baseball on who went to AARO and their connections, it's going to blow this whole thing as a completely and totally fake thing right out of the water, in my opinion. Also, Krista Wester, with another $5, says Elizondo is probably going for a Hank Moody. Starts out as Fox Mulder, writes some books, and gets Hank Moody's lifestyle. Very keen observation, and I can't say I disagree with you, but thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support, and for helping us to praise the cash, Krista Wester. Thanks for being a great supporter.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, now we are going to, we'll take a moment to check in with the live chat as well. Boy, we've got a great attendance tonight. Happy to see so many of you. I see some veterans and also some new faces. So to all the new people, I got to remind you, do the good YouTube thing. Please be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. You'll know when we're doing a live broadcast and you can take part in it. We'll be taking comments and questions from the live chat after we get through this video, which I hope we will be able to do in a short amount of time. This is also why I chose to do the Ross Coulthart one, because honestly, let's just take a moment to realize that if this Lue Elizondo person was credible, he wouldn't need to go to wackadoos like Leslie Kean and Ross Coulthart to help sell his book. He'd be on real networks. And while he did get on CBS, he got on CBS for like 4 minutes. So this is a transformative work. We're educating the public about disgraced Australian journalist Ross Coulthart and fake Pentagon UFO program director Lue Elizondo. We're going to be critiquing the video we're sharing, discussing it, using it to educate the public. This is covered under fair use and is allowable by law. Let's get to that, friends. This is about a 40-minute video, so I'm going to try to keep my comments brief so that we could get through this. And I just want to take a moment before we begin to recognize and understand that Ross Coulthart is the same person who brought us the Grush story, which, I got to admit, they're good at putting stories together and making them seem convincing. But the problem is that they do not ever actually provide evidence. Oh, I forgot my little wrap up here from my notes. We'll do that first. So the problem here is that there are disgraced journalists and profiteering hucksters like Ross Coulthart, and they really seek profit over truth. And by the way, I've been informed by multiple sources now, take from this what you will, that Ross Coulthart knows this is all fake. And he doesn't really want to be a UFO guy, but it's the only thing that he can do to make money. So let's just spitball here for a moment. If my sources are correct in that Ross Coulthart knows this is all fake and he's just trying to make money, that means that he has the ethics of a drug dealer, a crackhead, a pimp, that kind of person. He has the ethics of a criminal. And knowingly, if it's true that he really knows this is all fake and he's doing it anyway, then that means he's not only lying to people, but he's helping other people lie to people so that he can personally profit. And I have a note here, the role of media, profit over truth. Ross Coulthart is bringing us both of these evidence-free stories. And Elizondo and Grush's claims have been widely covered by News Nation especially, often without the necessary skepticism or critical analysis. Media organizations, especially those that would employ a completely disgraced journalist like Ross Coulthart, are driven by profit motives. They have a vested interest in these sensational stories that can capture the public's attention, regardless of the veracity of the claims being made. The UFO phenomenon, and aliens in particular, has long been a lucrative topic for less than credible media companies like News Nation and people like Ross Coulthart. And that's due to its mix of mystery, government secrecy, and potential extraterrestrial life. But Ross Coulthart, by promoting figures that have no evidence, like Elizondo and Grush, along with News Nation, these media outlets can generate huge amounts of money and significant viewer interest and advertising revenue, even if the stories lack any evidence at all or any substance at all. I believe strongly that it is this dynamic that creates an environment where dubious claims can gain traction and be treated with undue seriousness, further blurring the line between credible journalism and entertainment. And let's be clear, Ross Coulthart brought us this Dave Grush story, and we are now at 448 days, and neither Ross Coulthart or Dave Grush has provided any evidence of the claims they made, and yet people like News Nation, Ross Coulthart, and others have made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars off of the Dave Grush story. I will be providing the spreadsheet proving that very, very soon. And I will be sharing it. And one of the hallmarks of a great researcher and a real truth seeker is when I provide this spreadsheet, anyone will be able to go after me and fact check the spreadsheet and find the numbers correct and know and understand that I am 100% factually correct when I say that Ross Coulthart, News Nation, and all these people that promoted this evidence-free Dave Grush narrative have made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. But back to Lue Elizondo, his claims about running a Pentagon UFO program are completely and totally false. His claims of possessing remote viewing abilities are just a story. He has no proof or evidence of that. And his stories about the U.S. government's alleged possession of alien bodies should be viewed with a very, very high degree of skepticism. After all, look at the sources that he's using. The same sources that told Dave Grush this stuff, and Dave Grush hasn't provided any proof for 448 days. So like Dave Grush's similar assertions, Elizondo's statements are characterized by a complete and total lack of any evidence and rely heavily on anecdotes or stories that people told them and on the media's willingness to amplify sensational stories for pure profit. The scientific community's dismissal of remote viewing as a valid practice further undermines Elizondo's credibility. In an era where misinformation can spread rapidly, it's crucial to critically examine these kind of claims and to absolutely demand smoking gun or rigorous evidence before accepting these extraordinary assertions or claims as true. All right, I'll get off my soapbox now, friends, and we'll get to the video. Again, this is fair use. This is a transformative work. We're educating the public. We'll be critiquing the video that we are sharing, discussing it with the live chat, using this to educate people on disgraced journalists that have to sell fake UFO stories to make a living, and fake Pentagon UFO program directors that have to lie to disgraced journalists like Ross Coulthart to sell a book full of evidence-free stories.
Your book title is imminent. Something is about to happen.
Oh, something's about to happen.
What's about to happen?
Well,
I think what's about to happen is Lue Elizondo is about to get some pocketfuls of UFO dollars, personally.
if we're lucky, disclosure. The realization that the U.S. government is aware.
By the way, there is no disclosure. And this clown has followers like him. Remember, Matt Ford said in 2023 that by the end of the year, they would have disclosure, right? How long has Stephen Bassett and Stephen Greer been promising that disclosure is just around the corner? It's basically the carrot on a stick. Never happens, but they make people keep chasing it, right? Disclosure is an abstract, fake construct. It doesn't exist.
That the topic of UAPs is not only valid, but they're real.
The book lays out in vivid detail.
Yeah, and here's the problem. UAPs or UFOs are real because certainly there's always going to be something in our skies that we can't identify. The problem is that people like Lue Elizondo, Jeremy Corbell, Ross Coulthart, and all these others, They jumped straight to, well, if UFOs are real, they must be alien. There's no evidence or proof of that.
Allegations that the United States military has been running a UAP retrieval and reverse engineering program.
And people have been making these claims for decades, most famously the convicted pimp fake scientist Bob Lazar, who popularized the idea of so-called crash retrievals in 1989. Let's just examine that for a moment. So Bob Lazar claimed that the government was recovering. And by the way, Len Stringfield, many other people have made these claims, right? That the government has, is somehow they are collecting alien vehicles and they are essentially back engineering them. But Bob Lazar had since 1989, that means he's had 35 years to prove his claims. You think Dave Grush is bad with the 448 days of no evidence to confirm original claims? Bob Lazar, the original grifter UFO alien hustler, well, one of them, 35 years he hasn't proven his claims. But here we are, and everybody just keeps repeating this idea that the government has alien spaceships
for years and has even recovered alien bodies. Aliens, non-human intelligences, are real, and they have been engaging with humanity.
Isn't it interesting that he never said this stuff until he had a book to sell? You waited 7 years until you could profit from a book. By the way, that's a great screenshot. Looks high here, right? You got to be high to believe him. I think so anyway. I love that he had 7 years to tell everybody this stuff, and he waits until he has a book he can buy on Amazon before he starts saying this stuff publicly. And isn't it interesting? This is UFO disease. People tire of your original story. You only got a few years to tell that original story for cash, and then your claims have to get bolder and more grand. We've seen it happen over and over and over again. How many people, when they first come out, their claims seem credible? Robert Salas is a great example. When he first came out, like, oh yeah, wow, UFOs shut down nuclear missiles. Wow, that's a great story. And he was a military guy, seems very credible. Fast forward years later, and Robert Salas is telling people that him and his entire family are getting ritually abducted by aliens and abused by them. And he's got altars to aliens in his house, right? The claims always get more grandiose as time goes on, the longer these people are in UFO land. They have to keep one-upping their previous claims in order to still get attention and still make the money.
Ross, we're not alone. We are not alone in this universe, and it is a simple fact. And the U.S. government has been aware of that fact now for decades.
It's a fact, but there's no facts and evidence to support that it's a fact. That's the problem. And in his book, he says things like, in fact, Earth is not the only planet inhabited by intelligent beings. But then he doesn't provide any evidence that that is indeed a fact. Or, there's no facts and evidence to support that it's a fact. Why are you saying it's a fact if you can't show us the facts? Could it be because you're just repeating evidence-free stories from wackadoos like Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff, the same people that told Grush this stuff and made him destroy his career over it? Poor Grush, I think they manipulated him. And Brian Bender said that Lue Elizondo groomed him into his role as a UFO whistleblower. So what we see is the same core group of people making these claims. They never have any real evidence, right? They never have any real proof. It's always tantalizing maybe proof.
The American public, the entire planet, is being lied to by the American government about what's really going on.
I think if the American public knew just how deep this lie went, then we would have a very significant constitutional crisis on our hands.
Why should you believe
A constitutional crisis. Well, why don't you drop the evidence? This guy danced around for 7 years collecting every UFO dollar he could, pretending that he knew the government insider secret. Then he finally drops his book, and the only secrets he knows came from Wackadoo Hal Puthoff. That are not real secrets, they're just stories. Oh, and that he has superpowers, right? He's got superpowers, and Hal Puthoff told him aliens are real. a guy who also thought Uri Geller had superpowers when he was getting fooled by children's magic tricks. And by the way, I know they were children's magic tricks because I was once a professional magician and stage mentalist, award-winning, honestly. And I know some of the tricks that Uri Geller used to fool Hal Puthoff. This is the quality of the information that you're getting, friends, from these wackadoos. But hey, more power. They're making hundreds of thousands of dollars selling this crap. It's crap.
Need any of this? And who is this Elizondo character anyway? Well, it depends on whom you ask.
Let's bring in his TTSA co-conspirator, who also stood on a stage while they were promising investors a revolutionary spaceship with a revolutionary power source that would change the world, right? This is another wackadoo who once said, I was assistant secretary of undersecretary of defense, whatever his position was. The actual one escapes me at the moment. Somebody can correct me in the live chat. He once said he saw, while working in government, he saw zero evidence of extraterrestrial visitation on Earth. Suddenly he gets in with TTSA and and all those CIA people, and suddenly does a 180. Oh, the aliens are real.
Very hardworking, very diligent, intelligent, and patriotic.
He is just a normal guy who is trying to do something.
By the way, here's a surefire sign that the grift is almost over. As these grifters progress in their grifting careers, selling these fake alien and UFO stories, eventually they run out of material. They run out of people they can trust to help them with the grift. And eventually, many of them involve family members. We're seeing that right now. Corey Good's bringing his wife in to the thing. Corey Good's bringing his children in to the thing. And now we're seeing that with Lue Elizondo. To me, there's no difference between Corey Good and Lue Elizondo, except they both have different fairy tales that they sell the public.
Extraordinary.
What defines Lue Elizondo?
UFO bucks.
Loyalty, transparency.
Transparency. Great. Okay. Transparency defines you, Lue Elizondo. I challenge you, Lue Elizondo. Publish your tax returns for the past 7 years. Prove that you didn't make any money from the UFO community for the past 7 years. You want to be transparent, right? You want the government to be transparent about the aliens. You claim that transparency defines you. Publish your tax returns for the past 7 years. Let us all see how much money you made. He'll never do that, friends. I challenged him once to publish his tax returns before, and he didn't like that question. It was on the Theories of Everything show. A question I sent in. Oh, I'm not publishing my tax returns. Yeah. Some transparent guy. Let us know how much money. If Lue Elizondo publishes his tax returns for the past 7 years and he hasn't made any money, then I'll apologize for calling him a liar when he claims he hasn't made any money. You want to be transparent? Publish your tax returns, Lue. Let us know how much every penny that you've bilked out of the UFO community for the 7 years. As to the best of my knowledge and ability to research, Lue Elizondo has been doing this UFO shuffle for 7 years. So when he says he hasn't made any money from the UFO community, wouldn't he be dead from starvation by now if he hasn't made any money in the past 7 years? Wouldn't his family be dead? I mean, I don't know. I got kids. If I didn't make any money for 7 years, we wouldn't survive. So the lie that he hasn't made any money, and hey, I'm super transparent. Great, then publish your tax returns. Let us make sure that you weren't lying when you said you've made no money from the UFO thing.
Honesty.
He lied to the New York Times. He lied to TTSA investors. He lied about running a funded Pentagon UFO program. He lied about being the director of a UFO program. Honesty defines him. Come on, Lue Elizondo. This is an act. He's playing the part of an honest, patriotic whistleblower. But reality is very far from the fiction that he pretends, that the fiction that he projects.
Officially, the Pentagon disputes what Elizondo says he's done and seen.
Yeah, they say he never ran a Pentagon UFO program. You know why? Because he didn't. He made that up. It was his hobby while he worked at the Pentagon.
But everyone agrees he's an Army veteran who has served in hotspots around the world.
And also, according to his own book, he was a torture czar, the Darth Vader of torturing terrorists, according to his book. Sounds like bullshit to me.
Then oversaw counter-espionage and counter-terrorism investigations for the Department of Defense. In short, he's an American badass.
You've been in combat situations, haven't you? You've been in life-threatening situations.
That's another thing. Well, let's let him answer the question first.
I've been in some very unfortunate situations. Yeah.
So he basically said, yes, he's been in combat. Let's see the DD-214, Mr. Transparency. Let's see proof that you saw combat. I'm sorry. I don't believe anything this man says until I see paperwork that proves it, because he's been caught lying too much.
I've got a lot of regrets, and I want to make sure that whatever I've done in my life, serving the people in that building, I don't want to forget, even the bad things.
Do you regret all the people that feel like they got ripped off, that invested money in the TTSA? Do you regret that millions of dollars was taken from the public under false pretenses that you were going to build a spaceship with your buddies and you never did? Do you regret the people that felt like that was done unethically, immorally, and possibly illegally, since you straight lied to investors while you were soliciting public investment money? Do you regret that? Oh, I've done some things I regret. I bet you TTSA he does regret, but not because it rips people off. I think he regrets it because he didn't get enough out of that couple $1 million pot of money they collected.
To make sense of the man and his claims, you need to go back to when it all started. That was 2009, when Elizondo was working as an intelligence operations specialist for the Department of Defense. He'd risen to the coveted GS-15 pay scale.
Well, isn't it funny he can give people documents when he's making money? And by the way, Mr. Transparency, how much did they pay you to do this News Nation interview, or did you just do it because you knew you were going to get some book sales out of it? Either way, you're profiting from this interview. You're not doing it for, altruistic purposes.
The highest level federal employees can attain.
Remember, I was a senior GS-15 at the time, which is
he could release it if he wanted to be transparent. He could release his records
in Kent Island, Maryland, with his wife Jen and their 2 daughters.
We had a really nice place to live. This was a great place to raise our kids, and it was just a really laid back area to grow up, to raise a family and to live here.
But Elizondo says it all changed after he met this man, a renowned missile systems expert named Jim Lakatsky. He was running a program called AARO.
He was running a program called AARO, correct.
Which I have to read the acronym. It's the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Application Program. But you learned soon.
And that program was not supposed to have anything to do with UFOs. It was supposed to investigate aerospace developments from an adversarial perspective. In other words, what emerging aerospace technology should we be concerned about? And instead, the people who got the money for that program wasted it on studying dino beavers, poltergeists, right? Skinwalker Ranch, and UFOs too.
That what ORSAP was investigating was not just advanced weaponry.
Yeah, I remember distinctly Jim pulling me into his office. He said,
I agree, Pathfinder. Bringing your family into your grift is shameful,
UFOs.
In my opinion.
And so I responded truthfully. I said, I don't. I wasn't interested particularly as a kid into science fiction. I wasn't a big Star Trek fan or Star Wars fan. So I consider myself kind of a gumshoe investor.
And here he goes with this false narrative that he was never a UFO guy. Apparently, he was at a dinner with some of the people from OSAP telling him about UFOs and his psychic superpowers years and years and years ago. So again, this is more play acting. He's playing a part. It sounds like a convincer, like, well, I was never into science fiction or UFOs. I never thought about UFOs. Bullshit. I call bullshit.
Investigator, old school, just the facts, ma'am kind of guy. And he said, that's fair. But he said, make sure that you don't let your analytic bias get the best of you. And you have to remain open-minded.
He basically
Gumshoe
told you
investigator.
UFOs, unidentified
Sure.
anomalous phenomena, UAPs, are real.
Yeah. So Jim told me point blank, they were studying and collecting information on UFOs.
Elizondo claims he was invited to join a program under the ORSAP umbrella called ATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. And soon that...
But again, this is a misleading mischaracterization because no program called ATIP existed. And now the story is changing, right? In the original New York Times article in 2017, we get a completely and totally different story from Lue Elizondo. Now the story has to change. Do you know why it has to change? Because reporting from people like Keith Clore, Area 503, Stephen Greenstreet, principally, John from the Black Vault, me here at Truth Seekers, have proven that his original story is bullshit. So now he's got to change the story in order to keep the grift going.
Invitation became an initiation.
Oh, it was a bit of like Alice in Wonderland going down the rabbit hole. And it kept getting deeper and deeper.
Elizondo says his first real epiphany came during a meeting with a Brazilian Air Force general who'd come to brief them on a series of incidents in a city called Colares. Tell me what was happening.
These people.
This is a big problem for Lue Elizondo. He claims that a general came and briefed him, right? We just heard that. A general came and briefed him. That's not entirely accurate. It wasn't the general that came to brief him, because according to his book, he told a different story, right? Why can't this guy keep his story straight? I want to thank Elish D. Avalon for this one. So here he's claiming that a Brazilian general briefed him. That's not entirely the case. Just give me one moment while I get this together for you. 1 second. Ill prepared. I thought I had this already. I thought I had this already queued up. My apologies. Oh, we'll just do it here. And this is in that Facebook group that I got thrown out of because, you know, I ask questions. I'm surprised this guy won't get thrown out of. Okay, so on the recent Joe Rogan interview with Lue Elizondo, Rogan asked Lue a few times when Lue had his moment of realization or aha moment on discovering that the UFO phenomenon is real. Those questions were asked after Lue started telling how he initiated his activities on OSAP. When Rogan asked for a third time, what was the first thing you saw that made you realize that there's something going on that defies conventional wisdom or conventional understanding of propulsion systems, Lue responded to that question by telling that he attended a dinner sponsored by Robert Bigelow with OSAP guys and a Brazilian Army general, General Uchôa, that was involved with Colares, and Lue has shown some of the Colares case evidence, and that's what triggered his realization of the UFO phenomenon. But General Alfredo Mercado de Miranda Uchôa died in 1996, and he was not only an Army general, but he was an important figure on Brazilian ufology. He was involved in Colares. The operation conducted in Colares was led by Brazilian Air Force, and the officer in charge of the Operation Saucer Preto was Captain Urange Holenda. So we've got a big problem here. Let's go back to the video, however, and see exactly what he says. And then I think we have a solution. And I think that solution was he never met with that general. He met with his son. And isn't that interesting? There's a big difference between meeting with the general and meeting with the general's son, because now Instead of first-hand information, you've got second or third-hand, right? Or at least second-hand information. He can't keep his story straight. Let's go back.
Elizondo says his first real epiphany came during a meeting with a Brazilian Air Force general who'd come to brief them on a series of incidents in a city called Colares.
Yeah, and isn't that interesting that they both use this storyline? It's almost as if somebody wrote out the storyline. Okay, if somebody asks me what convinced me, this is what I'll say. It seems very contrived to me.
Tell me what was happening.
These people, the townspeople, were being plagued by UAP, UFOs. In some cases, they were being pursued, and reports of these laser beam type, if you will, emissions were coming down and harming people, to the point where the Brazilian government actually deployed doctors and the military to investigate. And then when they arrived, they substantiated. They encountered these UFOs, these UAP as well.
But Lou, I know the report of Colares. Officially, according to the Brazilian government, Colares didn't find any evidence at all.
Yeah. Well, that was not the case. And it was very clear that it was a very
well, that was the official case.
Legitimate investigation. And what they found was that these things were coming in and out of the area and harming people.
As Lou went further down the rabbit hole, he says he learned that many of the classic UFO cases were, in fact, much more than legends.
Yeah, right. Because Hal Puthoff told him. But one second, we'll get to the solution here, I guess. One second here. Let me just find this. So his book says something kind of different. His daughter and personal translator, highly placed in their government and well regarded. So I guess the son was a general too. General Uchôa was Brazil's top drug czar and a 4-star general in the 1970s. His late father, General Uchôa, launched the Brazilian Center for UAP Studies and devoted more than 30 years of his life to the subject and other paranormal and mystical studies. I don't think then that somebody that spent 30 years of their life investigating the paranormal is a good source. But here you go. It was the son of the general, not the general, not the original. I guess they're both Uchôa. But the father of the general that he met with was basically a UFO wackadoo. So there you go. Not a good source. I'm sorry, but somebody that runs a UFO organization is not a good source for truthful information about UFOs, even if they are a former government official. Back to the video. He claims that these UFO stories are not just legends. Well, if they're not just legends, why can't he show us any real evidence to prove these things? Just making bold declarations.
Including the famous incident in Roswell, New Mexico. Roswell, 1947.
All of this information that he's about to tell you came from Hal Puthoff, according to his book and other sources.
What happened?
There was a UAP that crashed. In fact, there were 2 UAP that crashed, and one flew away while the other one did not, and it was recovered by the U.S. government.
You must appreciate people watching this, hearing you talking about aliens, recovered craft, recovered bodies. It sounds crazy.
Because it is, and it came from basically a crazy person in the form of Hal Puthoff. His claim or assertion that Roswell was crashed alien beings came from Hal Puthoff, another person just telling a story. Do you see what we're talking about when we say this is all one big circle jerk? It's all one big circle jerk. One person tells a story, he tells it to this guy gets on TV, gets on News Nation repeating the story. The first guy had no evidence. Where did Hal Puthoff get that information from? What evidence does Hal Puthoff have that his claim that Roswell was 2 crashed alien spacecraft and they recovered bodies, where did he get that information from? Did he get it from Jesse Marcel? Did he get, this is one big self-licking ice cream cone. You never get to any evidence. It's just people repeating stories ad nauseum.
Well, as I've said before, I'm not saying it doesn't sound crazy. What I'm saying is it's real.
Coming up, are alien abductions real?
Oh, yeah. So the alien visitation on Earth, what he's saying is they're real. He just doesn't have any evidence that he could show us to prove that they're real.
The people have been taken away from their homes and had things planted in them. Is there a connection between aliens and psychic powers?
This real morphology occurs.
Real morphology, according to who? Oh, Gary Nolan, another member of that inner circle of UFO circle jerkers. And he's going to be making some claims about alien implants. You know, that's real easy to show the evidence of. Why isn't he going to show? He's going to show you a picture of what he says is an alien implant. Why don't you show us the goddamn DNA results of some testing that proves it's alien? Oh, that's right, because you don't have that. You've got a story, though.
When Lue started bringing his work home with him.
I had no idea what the hell I was getting myself into.
Stay with us.
Oh, we're going to hear about the alien space orbs.
Former Pentagon UFO investigator Lue Elizondo writes in his new book, Imminent, that non-human intelligence has been engaging with humans for decades. So what do they want?
UFO rainbow
There
dollars.
are many
Definitely.
commentators who say they're friendly. They're no threat at all to humanity. Can we assume that?
Well, I think in order to understand if something is a threat, from a national security perspective, it's a very simple calculus. It's capabilities.
You could be right, Jim Morris. That was the first
we see
mention of the bodies. You're absolutely right.
Replicate them. We have no idea the intent. So to presume or to assume that these things are friendly or
we can't. I'll agree with that. We can't presume if aliens are visiting us that they're all friendly, like idiot Stephen Greer says. Jim Morris makes a great point, which I wanted to verbalize. The crash bodies came from Stanton Friedman in that crap book he wrote with Don Berliner. Yes. The original Roswell story did not include any stories of bodies. That was an add-on in a book from Stanton Friedman with Don Berliner. Suddenly, there were two craft and a second crash site. So what we see is the original story becomes grander. This is the way of ufology. This is the way, friends.
Or they're hostile. There's not enough data.
Elizondo says the Pentagon's UFO investigators were keenly interested in the impact UAPs were having on individuals, especially military personnel.
There's enough reports that substantiate that not all these interactions are necessarily benign or peaceful. Some people leave terrified. Some people leave injured.
That'll be next. Lue has an implant. You're right.
There is people that are on full 100%.
They abducted Lue's neck
right now from the U.S. government because of an interaction with UAP. And it's in writing, by the way, from the U.S. government because of their involvement in an incident.
Indeed, the Veterans Administration has granted full medical disability benefits to this man.
Yeah. This is the Rendlesham Forest incident, another very problematic story. And remember how many times that story has evolved, got more grand, and changed. In the original story, nobody came that close to the so-called craft. Nobody touched it. Then the story got grander and grander and grander. And it became that somebody touched it. They got a binary download. These were alien, or these weren't aliens. These were time travelers from the future. Allegedly. I don't think that this person, he's about as credible as a crackhead, in my opinion. We could do, you know what? We've never covered the whole Rendlesham Forest because I think it's such a problematic story. We can, but again, this is not, this is what they put forth as evidence. Oh, this guy's on disability because he claimed that he got disabled after an encounter with the alien spaceship. He didn't even say it was alien. You guys are saying it was alien. They claimed it was human time travelers from the future. You see the problem? It's like, you remember when you were a kid, those choose your own adventure books? This is like choose your own story. Oh, Rendlesham's supposed to be human time travelers from the future, not aliens. But in our case, we want to talk about aliens, so we'll just say he had an encounter with an alien spaceship. Very problematic.
Airman John Burroughs, for injuries to his heart and eyes, he claims he suffered during the famous 1980 UAP incident in Rendlesham Forest, England.
Yes, and this person, John Burroughs, has made a multitude of incredibly inconsistent statements. His story changed dramatically over the years. I don't think he's a credible witness myself, but hey, if you're just trying to sell a fake story, you got to take bits and pieces from anywhere you can, right?
And Elizondo says that's just the tip of the iceberg. Did you, in any of your UAP investigations, come across evidence of alleged abductions of humans by non-human beings?
We came across information that suggested that people were having things put inside their body that they did not give approval to.
So,
oh, now he's bringing in alien implants. And I'd love to know the source of this. Is it Roger Lear? You remember him, guys. He was a foot doctor that claimed he was removing alien implants from everybody. And we know Roger Lear is fake as shit because Jeremy Corbell made money with him. And Jeremy Corbell is fake as shit. Sorry, not a credible source of information. And notice they're not going to tell you where this information came from. Do you know why? Because they know that even people that aren't very interested in UFOs thought Roger Lear was full of shit.
People have been taken away from their homes in the middle of the night and had things planted in them.
Something that was put inside their body, something invasive, right? Something that was not put there by their permission.
These claims have been made for decades. Nobody has ever proven these claims.
To do something.
You've seen one of those implants, haven't you?
I have been privy to some very interesting things.
This photo, he says, shows one of those interesting things. It's alleged.
Notice how cropped it is so we can't see who's holding it? Spoiler alert, it's not somebody credible. That's my opinion. I'm entitled to it. Or they wouldn't have had to crop it like this.
A biological sample removed from a US service member and submitted for analysis. This is possibly an alien implant.
Well, if you look, there's actually a piece of the chip sticking out and what appears to be these fibers that were moving on their own. And then
notice he's not going to provide any proof that it's a chip or that the fibers moved.
It looks like this chip or whatever this is, this foreign object, is encapsulated by some sort of biological material.
Yes, and just to be clear, if a foreign entity, like let's say a chip of metal, enters the human body, it gets encapsulated with organic material. That is real science. It doesn't mean it's an alien implant, but people have been making these claims about alien implants. You could watch Jeremy Corbell's shit awful movie, Patient 17, where they made all kinds of claims about people having alien implants. But again, it was a discredited, less than credible foot doctor who claimed that he was removing alien implants from multiple people. I don't buy it.
Could that not be something biological, microbiological, or parasitic?
Well, it's certainly the outside looks like it's some sort of masking device. In essence, you have a foreign object. He's
not going to provide any evidence
in there, and it seems to be encapsulated by some sort of biological material.
Where are the lab results proving that that was a metal object? Where are the lab results on the organic material that encapsulated it? We don't get that. You know why? Because this is another evidence-free story.
Material.
But how do you know it's not just a bit of metal that somebody's knocked into on a building site?
Well, in this particular case, this was
more story. It was moving on its own.
Metabolic activity.
Oh, it had its own metabolic activity. Can you show us the lab results showing the metabolic activity? Well, no. Can you show us the video of the object moving? Well, no. Trust me, bro.
It terrified one of the doctors who was looking at this under a microscope. Said,
"Can we interview the doctor?" No.
But
no.
Are UAPs abducting people at random?
Was the doctor Roger Lear discredited UFO nut
Elizondo
job?
says research has revealed an intriguing pattern among UAP experiences.
There you go, Sandra McDonald confirming I'm correct. The metal wear in her spine has grown scar tissue and blood vessels around it, making it impossible to remove or repair.
It's responsible for all sorts of stuff, and some have even speculated precognition
but certainly intuition.
Intuition for sure.
Elizondo says the caudate putamen is larger in people with alleged psychic powers, what the government has called remote viewing. What about people who've had UAP experiences?
Notice he's not
Very
showing.
Interesting.
Notice he's not showing any peer-reviewed scientific studies that prove that people with a larger portion of this brain have psychic superpowers, because there are no peer-reviewed studies. This is all stories he's repeating, I believe, from Gary Nolan, another UFO wackadoo that he is running organizations with.
Thing. And by the way, that's not me telling you. These are medical doctors and scientists.
Stanford immunologist Dr. Gary Nolan
There you go.
been researching this topic, and while his
There you
conclusions
go.
are not...
What scientists are saying this other than UFO wackadoos like Gary Nolan? And God damn it, when is Stanford going to fire Gary Nolan for promoting UFO garbage? If you run a prestigious educational institution, should you really have a professor on your staff that keeps becoming involved in completely fake UFO stories? I mean, I don't know.
Definitive. There are two working theories. One, that people with naturally large chordate putamen might attract UAPs like an antenna.
Even Ross Coulthart admits this is a theory.
Another, that UAP encounters with normal people cause that same part of the brain to get bigger.
And there's a lot of information to substantiate.
Where is the data? Notice they don't show you any data to support these theories.
That.
So basically, this is all just speculation by UFO wackadoos.
This is real morphology occurring in the human brain.
Elizondo argues that people with
Gary
enhanced
without makeup.
chordate putamen might
giving Stanford
have
a
talent
bad name.
both for
I agree.
remote viewing and communicating with UAPs. And that's important because it's
A
an
living
established
blob
fact
aliens
the
or
Pentagon
something?
has had an interest in remote viewing for military purposes.
In the vernacular, they used to
I
call
agree,
it
Pizzerloo.
psychic espionage. There was a program in the U.S. government. It's called Stargate. They were taking young soldiers and civilians, and they were training them.
Yeah, that is entirely true. But what he's leaving out is that Project Stargate and the CIA determined that remote viewing superpowers were unreliable and weren't real. And I have that study here. And in this executive summary, this is a study of the government's conclusions and the CIA's conclusions on remote viewing. And I'll save you we'll try to skip to the end here. Essentially, they determined that it's bunk. It was noted in Section 5 that some of the remote viewing information obtained from operational tasks regarding North Korea and others concerning the Middle East depended upon the precognitive ability of the RVs in predicting events yet to occur. These data provide an opportunity for post-analysis on the accuracy of the predictions by making a comparison with subsequent information regarding actual events. Access to classified information from other sources, such as post-analysis, would provide data for evaluating the ability of remote viewers to perform precognitive tasks and of the related operational value of the predictions. And spoiler alert, the value of the predictions was garbage. So they ended the project. If remote viewing worked, why would they end the project? But hey, according to Lue Elizondo, it did work. We've got paperwork that it didn't work, but hey, he's got a book to sell, so just believe him.
To conduct espionage behind enemy lines. And the term was called remote viewing. A lot of people that were in the remote viewing program had MRIs done of their brains, and a vast majority have that specific morphology.
Why can't he show us the paperwork to prove that?
Do I think it's extraordinary? No, it may be a vestigial capability that humans had for a long time.
But does it work?
Oh, it absolutely works.
It absolutely works, and yet the government determined it didn't work, so they concluded the program. It was a waste of money and taxpayer resources. It didn't work, Lue Elizondo. If it did work, they would still have a remote viewing program. Don't you think we'd like to know what's going on over in North Korea in Israel and in Russia and in the Ukraine right now. If you could just remote view what's going on, you wouldn't need field agents. It would be a tremendous cost savings. It doesn't work. Science has proved it doesn't work. And again, I challenge Lue Elizondo, prove your remote viewing superpowers. I'll give you $10,000. You can't and you won't, because you, sir, are a lying bullshit huckster. That's what you're doing here. Huckstering bullshit and making false statements like, well, remote viewing works. Trust me, bro. Even though all the studies, even the ones from the government that ran that program that you referenced, say it doesn't work.
It absolutely works.
You see, remote viewing has been discredited. That the CIA determined that it doesn't work.
Okay.
Remote viewing failed to produce
You're saying
actionable
it doesn't?
intelligence.
It absolutely works.
Okay. So everybody in that government study is wrong. But Lue Elizondo, because he's got a book to sell, he's right. No, it really does work. Prove it. Prove your remote viewing superpowers, right? Tell everybody how big my cock is with your remote viewing superpowers, Lue Elizondo. You can remote view anywhere, including into my pants. Tell everybody how big my cock is. I'll get a ruler out right now and confirm or deny your guess. Remote viewing doesn't work. It's pseudoscience garbage from garbage peddlers like Hal Puthoff.
He knows it works because he was trained in remote viewing
Oh,
himself.
there you go. He's
don't
got
like to
superpowers.
publicly talk about it.
He's got
My involvement was
superpowers.
only tangential.
There's a story you tell of a terrorist suspect, and there was a remote viewing
Exactly.
operation.
Patty
done
says
that
we would not
you
need
were part
spies if
of.
remote viewing
Yes,
was real.
we did an experiment. Probably shouldn't have, but we did. And long story short, it appeared to be very effective.
That alleged capability for remote viewing and its potential.
Here's where he shook a terrorist bed with him and his other buddies that have remote viewing superpowers. Oh, it's getting thick in here. I'm going to need waiters if this keeps up.
Connection to non-human intelligence may sound like a gift, but Lue says it was also, at least partially, a curse. He says that's because after years of studying UAP encounters, he began experiencing what's known in UAP circles as the Hitchhiker effect. UAPs were appearing.
Got to
out
bring
of
in
the phone,
Skinwalker
perhaps
Ranch and the
because
Hitchhiker
he
effect.
was attracting them.
What started happening?
Oh, wow. Where do I start?
And does anybody notice we're almost halfway into this? Exactly how much evidence has Lue Elizondo provided to support that his claims are true and accurate and real? Oh, that's right. None. No evidence.
Well, we would have these weird glowing
Get more stories
balls of
with
light
no
in
evidence.
the house. They were green. They were.
Don't worry, he's going to
small,
have his
they were
wife
diffuse,
corroborate his fake
kind of
story
like,
here.
like a little neon ball, and it really caused some disruption for my kids and my wife.
What were you seeing?
I would routinely see orbs.
What do you mean by orbs?
Small little spherical green.
His wife is seeing balls. All right, I'm going to leave that one alone. Still, you notice that both Lue Elizondo and his wife claim that they were routinely seeing these glowing orbs in their home. Wouldn't you set up some cameras? When you get out your phone and take some pictures? You know what's missing from the book? Proof of this story. So this is just another story which does not pass the test of falsifiability. We've talked about this many times. There's a concept called falsifiability, which means if they're telling this story, and if I can't disprove the story, and they can't prove the story, then it's not falsifiable. Then it has no value. It's just a story. Well, it does have value to people like Ross Coulthart here, who is selling fake stories for a living. We've proven that he sold multiple fake stories for money. This one's very problematic. And the fact that he's bringing in his wife to corroborate these evidence-free stories, as a married man, it's very troubling to me. I would never, ever, I don't know.
Lightish green type of color.
Yeah, just so everybody's aware, the green ones were okay, but the blue ones were evil. Proving once again that blue balls are bad. Blue balls are bad, friends.
And I'd be just walking down the hall and I would just stop and it would just continue to go right through the wall.
I would wire my entire house with cameras to catch these if they were happening on a routine basis, like these people claim. But they didn't do that. Instead, they waited and never, and by the way, 6 or 7 years now, Lue Elizondo never mentioned his story until he had a book to sell.
So we're talking about the hitchhiker effect. Something had followed Lue home from work.
Or by his very nature, yes.
How did he explain things? Was he able to talk about what was going on?
Not well.
Blue Ball's hurt real bad too.
I
Says
can
Admiral
imagine
Rascals,
you were
yeah.
pretty angry.
I was very upset. The house had been turned upside down.
Yes, it sounds like the stuff of madness. Tall
Yeah,
tale,
just to promote a book. She wants a new handbag.
Where was
Yeah, maybe she gets a new Louis Vuitton worth about as much as his $10,000 Rolex.
The world would see it on video.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh.
Stay with us.
Yeah, the man who knows too much. Yeah, right. He knows too much, but he has no evidence.
Would shock the world and change it.
2004 in November, the USS Nimitz carrier strike group were
Really
doing
no
what
proof.
they call workups off the coast of San Diego. And as they are doing this, there are two different radar arrays that are picking up these objects over the course of several days, dropping from 80,000 feet and within about a second or less, all of a sudden being 50 feet over the water and hovering and then popping back up again.
This is a claim. No one's ever produced radar tapes. So I have a problem with this. Oh, these things defy. Remember what we said before. People like Lue Elizondo love to say, well, these things defy the laws of physics. They went from 80,000 feet right down to 50 feet over the water and then right back up into space. They just never prove it. Isn't it interesting that they can tell these stories but never actually prove them? Just incredible. We want to take a moment to thank Astro Mastro for kind and generous $10 Canadian. Oh, thank you. They say, aside from your occasional shouting and vulgarity, you are truly an outstanding source of info on this crazy topic. Just kidding. Love the vulgarity and the shouting. Well, I'll try to yell more just for you. And thank you very much for your kindness, generosity, and support. We're a viewer-supported show. Thank you, Astro Mastro, for helping us to praise the cat.
Raise the cash, raise the cash.
We'll try to get through more of this. Yeah.
So
I don't know how I'm going to get through that Rogan one because I'm going to be screaming at. I'm going to be screaming at my screen.
Vector the two F-18 aircraft, and they go to look at this thing. And long story short, after visually seeing this tic-tac looking object, rough.
Stop. They never visually saw it because it was at night. How can this UFO expert get the facts so incredibly wrong? Did you hear him? After seeing this visually, they never saw it visually because it was at night. They never saw the craft visually. They only saw this on their display screen. We'll back that up so we can hear him make an ass out of himself and give completely and totally 100% provably, factually incorrect information while selling a story in his book.
About a second or less, all of a sudden being 50 feet over the water and hovering and then popping back up again.
No proof of that.
So they vector the two F-18 aircraft and they go to look at this thing. And long story short, after visually seeing this tic-tac looking object,
they never visually
about
saw
the
it.
same length of a F-18 fuselage, performing in ways that we still can't replicate, bouncing around up and down.
So this is an intelligent technology.
This is absolutely, and it's responsible.
Fravor claimed to
and
see
it's
it.
not human.
It's
The others.
not.
Though the Nimitz tic-tac incident had occurred back in 2004, Elizondo didn't see the video until 2009. And then in 2015, it happened.
And he made a
again.
career profiting from it.
Naval aviators attached to the USS Roosevelt recorded these two other videos during exercises off.
Yeah, and actually, I'm sorry, just a correction. In his book, he says that some people visually saw one of these three when they didn't because it was at night. I'm not sure that's the Tic Tac. We'll clarify things.
The coast of Florida. That also caught the attention of intelligence consultant and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, Chris Mellon.
Yeah, who got the videos in the parking lot of the Pentagon. Remember that? Who gave them to him? Oh, I can't say.
The Navy was experiencing a number of incursions into restricted areas.
Actually, as best I recall, in his book, he claimed that people visually saw one of those three, the gimbal, the go fast, or the Tic Tac. I don't believe it was the Tic Tac. It was either the go fast or the gimbal, and they didn't visually see it. In the Tic Tac event, two people, Fravor and Alex Dietrich, did visually see it for a short time. But their accounts vastly differed from each other.
Airspace. And I met Lue at the Pentagon, began to hear about these incursions. And the more I learned, the more I realized that we had
just another UFO fart in the wind. Yeah.
The videos remained undisclosed to the public for years, and it's easy to see why. These weren't just strange objects in the sky. They conformed to what ATIP would establish as the 5 observables.
No, they didn't.
So the 5 observables include instantaneous acceleration, hypersonic velocity, low observability, trans-medium travel, and anti-gravity.
Yeah, and none of those 3 videos prove any of those things. Full stop. None of those 3 videos prove any of those things. Full stop. So, you know, it's interesting how much of Lue Elizondo's whole shtick is built on lies. None of those 3 videos show any of these characteristics.
In essence, the ability to defy Earth's natural gravitational force without the associated technology or means to do it. The government has said that for the record. This is not our technology. You know, people always say, well,
no, they didn't. I don't believe that they said that this is not our technology. And they tried very hard. I believe 2 of the 3 videos, all but the Tic Tac, are completely debunked as not what Lue Elizondo claimed they were. And you can see Mick West's excellent debunks. And he believes, by the way, that the Tic Tac is just a faraway aircraft that's misidentified. So all of this hype, all of this guy's career was built on 3 videos that don't show all those things that he said. Those 5 observables that he mentioned, the videos don't show those characteristics.
Well, you know, these things are clearly from outer space. And I say, well, you know, let's hold off on that. I often tell people, look, they can be from outer space, inner space, or frankly, the space in between. There's a whole reality around us. There's life in the bottom of the ocean.
That's interesting, Sun Lover 5000.
They survive off chemosynthesis, not the sun. And then we have life that's, you know, deep down in the Arctic ice that's thriving.
Oh, more speculation, weird science. Throw in some weird science.
Explanation for the intelligence that we're witnessing.
I mean, these things could be just as natural as we are. They could be from the oceans. We don't know.
Elizondo says ATIP also identified another pattern.
Space fish?
In several
could be from the oceans.
UAPs have allegedly appeared near American nuclear facilities or weapons systems.
And here's where it gets great, because they bring in the Robert Salas fake story. It was a power failure. UFOs did not shut down nuclear missiles. It's clearly been debunked.
Both the Nimitz and the Roosevelt are nuclear powered.
Oh, you got to bring. Oh, they're attracted to nuclear power.
Interest that UAP have towards our nuclear technology.
A daunting thought, to be sure. But Elizondo says ATIP also developed a hypothesis that the UAPs might have an Achilles heel, a vulnerability that the American military.
And this is going to be a problem for him. This next story he tells might be able to be fact-checked by the Pentagon. We'll see if they are going to actually cooperate with journalists covering Lue Elizondo's strange stories and confirm or deny this basically nuclear power trap story.
Can exploit electromagnetic pulses of some kind, could bring down these craft.
Yeah, the general consensus was that these vehicles, the propulsion units, are susceptible to electromagnetic pulse, meaning they are using a technology that the electromagnetism, if they were to...
The general consensus of who? Notice he doesn't name who said this. More speculation. There is no verifiable empirical evidence to support that electromagnetic pulses can bring down so-called UFOs.
Encounter a certain frequency of electromagnetism.
These are stories that have long existed in ufology. In fact, people claim that radar or an electromagnetic pulse gun was used to bring down the Roswell craft.
Would interfere
but these are
with their
stories,
ability
claims.
to fly and maneuver.
It's never
Building
been proven.
on that hypothesis, Elizondo says his team devised an audacious secret plan to disable and capture one of those Tic Tacs.
We had proposed a honey trap to try to collect data and information on these UAP.
So this was an operation known as Interloper.
That is correct. So you have a nuclear-powered carrier.
Yeah, we
with
have
other
great attendance
nuclear-powered
tonight. Our
vessels,
Kick Revival, welcome.
Potentially
Good to see you.
nuclear-powered submarines, which also may have potentially nuclear weapons. So the idea is to create a nuclear footprint that is so irresistible to these things, we would create a trap, and then that trap would be sprung.
But Operation Interloper never made it past the planning phase. Interloper was stymied, wasn't it? It was scrapped.
It was scrapped.
It was a pretty good idea.
And it was approved by a lot of people and a lot of agencies.
And yet, when it finally got to the top, it was stopped. It was blocked. It's almost like somebody perhaps already knew the answer.
Or didn't want us having the answer.
Yeah, and again, so basically, this guy who was just a desk jockey at the Pentagon, he had no command capability, is basically saying that like him and his buddies were going to get like nuclear powered, submarines with nuclear missiles on them and nuclear powered vessels like aircraft carriers and trap the UFOs, honeypot the UFOs. He had no ability to do anything like this. This is another bullshit story like the Mattis story, in my opinion. And we'll take a moment to also recognize the excellent reporting of Stephen Greenstreet, who says, Lue Elizondo changes his story yet again. May 2021, publicly. I was not a part of OSAP. May 2021, to the Department of Defense Inspector General. I joined OSAP in 2008 and became OSAP director in 2010. August 2024, in his book, I was part of ASAP. August 2024, in public statements, I was not a part of OSAP. How can this man's story keep changing so much? He can't keep his story straight. You know who else can't keep their story straight? Liars.
Elizondo says the shelving of Operation Interloper was just one of several.
They give the name Operation Interloper, so I think we're going to have some FOIA requests about Operation Interloper from John from the Black Vault and others. And it'd be interesting to see if this is a real program and if he had any part of it or if it's just something he heard about and he weaved into his UFO bullshit book.
Puzzling and frustrating setback to ATIP's mission. And eventually he came to believe it was more than just bureaucratic inefficiency. Someone was trying to block his team from making progress.
I took an oath to the American people to defend this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Including aliens!
Out that the enemy was elements in our own government. It was the bureaucracy.
That realization would lead to the biggest and riskiest decision of Elizondo's life.
Accomplished my mission. I knew I had to leave.
He accomplished his mission. What was his mission? Occupying himself, looking up UFO crap on Pentagon computers while he was supposed to be doing other things? So stupid and childish.
A Withers. If it's true that the Pentagon's so-called legacy program has been secretly retrieving and studying non-human craft and even bodies, well, where are they? Area 51, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in...
That's what the mythology says, that they're at Area 51, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, also a Navy hospital.
Ohio, or somewhere else. No one has come forward with those specifics. Not even famed military intelligence officer turned UFO whistleblower David Grush, who went public on News Nation last year.
Yes, and still has not provided any evidence of his original claims.
Those details were not approved for me to talk about.
But now, Lue Elizondo is going there.
And by the way, that's a lie. Dave Grush was approved by DOPSR to talk about alien bodies, alien crash retrievals, alien spaceships. He can provide all the details he wants about those subjects because those, by definition, are not classified. So he just lied there when he says he wasn't approved to talk about the location of the alien bodies. If the location of the alien bodies would be classified, they wouldn't allow him to even mention alien bodies. This is the circle jerk. Welcome to the circle jerk. And now we're going to get some more circle jerking from Lue Elizondo.
There comes a point in your book where you name names. You name Lockheed Martin, TRW, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, Raytheon, BAE Systems, and the Aerospace Corporation as being some of the private corporations that are involved in working on retrieved alien technology.
Just a note, in his book, he accuses them of being part of these programs and either housing, back engineering, working on, or studying the alleged alien crash retrieval materials. But he provides no evidence whatsoever. So basically, he's just accusing all of these companies of having aliens. If I ran any of those companies, I would sue this guy into oblivion for making those conspiracy-laden accusations with absolutely no evidence. But hey, that's just me.
True?
It is true that it is in my book. Yep.
You also...
It's true that it's in my book. Is it true that those companies have the alien material? Well, it's true that it's in my book. Who says that? Who answers that question that way? Did you catch that? Well, it's true that it's in my book.
Reveal how some non-human alien biosamples are now being kept at Fort Detrick in Maryland, or with the FDA.
Or were. That's his get out of bullshit card free, right? If the government issues a statement that they have no alien materials at that army base, he's going to just say, well, they were there.
And that they've been moved around so many times, their origins have likely been forgotten. Elizondo claims that some of the answers, and perhaps the biological samples, can be found here at the Department of Health and Human Services, which oversees the FDA and the NIH.
And here we go. Complete conspiracy, zero evidence.
Certainly, we know that a lot of these samples were farmed out to experts like the National Institute of Health, NIH, and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, which absolutely fall under the authorities of this building.
This is so ridiculous. Like, come on, dude. All of these aerospace companies are involved in this massive conspiracy. All of these government institutions are involved in this massive conspiracy. And nobody involved in any of those organizations was like, holy shit, we've got alien bodies. We better tell the public. Nobody blew the whistle. Nobody got any evidence of that. Come on. This guy's right, and everybody, all like thousands, tens of thousands of people are all lying and in on this massive conspiracy. You know, Occam's razor applies here. Either tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of people are in on this massive conspiracy, or Lue Elizondo is a bullshitter. Those are the two choices.
Logically, it makes sense that there are people in that building right now that may know the location of where these biological samples are.
The defense companies Elizondo names,
yes,
Pentagon
you're absolutely
and
true,
the
Admiral
Department of
Rasmus.
Health and Human Services all categorically deny Elizondo's claims. He says those denials are only possible because he could never get the alerts to prove their involvement.
Yes, you're right, Capsule. Let's elect a president so we can get the UFO truth.
To investigate those samples, and you were denied access.
We were, yeah.
You became increasingly aware, didn't you, that there were people in the Pentagon, in the intelligence community, in private aerospace who didn't want you investigating UAPs.
Yeah, and by the way, if he had requested to review biological samples, there would be emails, there would be paperwork. There isn't. Another plot hole.
Absolutely. We began to run into some fierce resistance. And the more we continue...
Oh, we got to bring in the men in black.
Need to investigate, the increased level of that resistance became. There were elements the only way I can describe them as religious fundamentalists.
It's a group that is euphemistically dubbed as the Collins elite, isn't it?
It is.
The Collins elite has long been rumoured to be a cabal of religious fanatics within the Pentagon. Many consider them a myth. Elizondo thinks otherwise.
That group is alive and well. It exists. I encountered elements of that group firsthand.
And they're gatekeepers inside the Pentagon who don't want the UAP story investigated.
That is correct, Ross. There are religious fundamentalists inside the Pentagon and inside the U.S. government, and specifically the intelligence community, that have a very, how shall I say, strict interpretation of their philosophical.
And this is a story he has told before, where members of the government said, oh, those UFOs and aliens, those are demons. So we know they're demons. Stop looking into it.
Belief system.
Elizondo recounts one specific encounter with a high-ranking member of this so-called Collins elite.
He stopped me in the halls of the Pentagon. He said, have you read your Bible lately? And I was kind of surprised by the question.
Again, another evidence-free story he's told hundreds of times.
Let me ask specifically, what do you mean?
Well, I don't know about hundreds, but he's told it a lot of times.
Are demons. These are demonic beings, and we shouldn't be looking at them.
But aside,
there's no proof of that either. Yeah.
Religious motivations for the secrecy, Elizondo suggests there could also
evidence of Barney the dinosaur abominably. That's one of my favorites.
Do the
Proves he's a
Russians and the
wackadoo.
Chinese have recovered craft?
I can't speak on behalf of what the Russians or Chinese or any adversaries may have or may not have.
Well, could that be driving our concern that we don't want to show our hand?
There's always a concern when a foreign adversary is looking at something. There is this cat and mouse. We don't want the adversaries to know what we have, and we also don't want the adversaries to know what we don't know.
Well, that part's true.
Right? So there's always a reason not to broadcast what you know and don't know to your enemy.
Whatever the motivations for the alleged cover-up, Elizondo says it went way beyond mere bureaucratic foot-dragging. People were threatened, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Some of our folks were told, if you're not careful, we're going to do exactly to you what we did with the Rosenbergs. You're done.
So people are being threatened with death if they talk about this.
Sure, because, and by the way, people say, oh, the government would never do that.
Lue Elizondo is saying that people were threatened with death. I don't know about you, but if somebody threatened me or my family with murder, I would blow the whistle immediately. But none of these people do, right? And they never name any names. If somebody comes to you from the government and they're threatening you or your life, you're going to know something about those people. You should be able to track them down, right? This is the intrigue, the spy, the 007 part of the story. Like, oh yeah, this information is so dangerous that my life was threatened. Right? But they never name any names. They never prove it. I can think of 10 people off the top of my head that have made these similar claims or exact claims. None of them ever prove it. Funny that.
Try getting on Area 51. There's signs on the fence that say lethal force is
that's a completely different story.
Authorized. You absolutely can use lethal force to protect national security investments and equities. That we do it.
Elizondo describes the mounting obstructions, the denied requests, the scrapped plans, the threats, and above all,
and couldn't the denied requests just as easily be like, what is this wackadoo talking about alien bodies and alien implants? Like, tell them that we don't have time for this nonsense. They never provide the evidence or proof of the denied request. This whole thing so far is one big trust me, bro.
Steadfast refusal to disclose any of this, either to the public, the Congress, or even the president. By early 2017, it had all become
Aliens Are Us Volume 2.
So there came a time during your work with ATIP where you just decided,
good night, Arlene Atkins.
I'm getting stymied.
Have a good night.
What did you decide to do?
I went public. I resigned.
How hard was it for you to write this letter?
They threatened to cut Lue's food supply off. He freaked.
This letter is my resignation memo to the Secretary of Defense.
That's not the resignation letter. There's multiple resignation letters, right? In the one resignation letter, he just said, oh, I had a job opportunity come up that I have to leave for immediately. So sorry. Bye-bye. But then to dramatize his exit and sell it to the TTSA investors, he wrote another letter to the Secretary of Defense.
Oh.
Dramatizing his UFO
probably the hardest
bullshit.
memo I ever had to write.
In the letter addressed to Defence Secretary James Mattis, Elizondo said he was
He's banned from
because,
McDonald's,
despite
maybe.
overwhelming evidence, certain individuals in the department remain staunchly opposed to further research.
I don't think he. I think the IG complaint found nothing. I think
aerospace threats. Because you wrote that memo and circumvented your immediate bosses.
Oh yeah.
What did they do?
Well, they made my life hell.
Hard times were ahead, but Elizondo was about to make some hell of his own, as he and those explosive videos were about to go public.
those worthless videos that don't prove anything that he claimed. You know, a lot has been made of these videos. At least 2 of the 3 of them are completely debunked as not what he claimed that they were.
I'm doing this because I believe it's the right thing to do.
The right thing to do, gather up all the UFO money you can.
2017, the world woke up to a bombshell. Lue Elizondo, working with Chris Mellon.
Yes, the bombshell in the New York Times was completely and totally not factual. They lied to the New York Times multiple times throughout that article, and it was written by known UFO advocate and proponent and activist Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal, who basically are UFO wackadoos, who didn't fact check anything he said and printed it in the New York Times. And a great deal of what he said that they printed turned out to be completely and totally factually inaccurate, as proven by Keith Clore and Stephen Greenstreet and John from the Black Fold and many others.
Had gone public with the now famous Nimitz Tic Tac video.
I contacted 3 different news organizations, and eventually the New York Times editors were
it could be hiding
to do a front page story.
Top secret projects.
The New York Times published an explosive article revealing the Pentagon's
completely factually inaccurate article.
Program.
Reports the U.S. government is still collecting information about encounters between unknown aircraft and our military.
But the government wasn't collecting that information. Lue Elizondo was, as a hobby. The government wasn't doing it. They didn't tell him to do it.
Elizondo spent 10 years as head of a secret study of unidentified aerial objects.
Did you hear that? He spent 10 years as part of a secret study. There's George Knapp helping to amplify a lie. He was not part of a secret study, except in his own hobby and imagination. It was an unofficial, unfunded effort. In other words, a hobby.
The U.S. government is still collecting information about encounters between unknown aircraft and our military.
Elizondo spent 10 years as head of a secret study of unidentified aerial objects.
Notice that they cut out that he was the director of this program, because now we all know that he wasn't the director of anything except in the land of make-believe. So there's some careful revisionist history taking place here.
When the story broke, this covert operator who'd worked in the world of intelligence suddenly became an international public figure. What was it like?
It was terrifying. I had spent my entire life living in the shadows. As an intelligence officer, anonymity is your friend.
I think you should have stayed in the
shadows. Was for me,
because now he just looks like
experiences.
A UFO clown.
Elizondo's face became synonymous.
Yeah,
with the
and here he is with known UFO wackadoos and sources, Eric Davis, whose work has been called crackpot research by the United States Air Force. And on the other side of him is Hal Puthoff, the guy who claims that he got superpowers from doing Scientology, and who claimed that Uri Geller had real superpowers, and Banachek, who was a magician that tricked him into believing he had superpowers. And of course, he is a proponent of free energy and all kinds of strange science, never proven anything in his life. He's the guy who's telling Lue Elizondo these alien body stories that he's just repeating with no evidence. And then we have Eric Davis. You remember him. He's the guy who wrote some of those wackadoo reports for the $22 million that essentially were nonsense. Remember, we have the Barney the dinosaur, Einstein waving at Barney the dinosaur through a time warp portal, wormhole. Remember that? His work was called crackpot research, Eric Davis's work was, and he's the proponent of fake UFO stories. He's the promoter of fake UFO stories, the originator of fake UFO stories, like the Wilson Davis notes, which are completely and totally fake, because the admiral called them, quote, a work of fiction, unquote.
The UFO question. And
that's his
now,
buddies,
with his days
UFO
at the
bullshitters.
Pentagon behind him, Lue devoted himself to the cause. He took a job with To the Stars Academy, a UFO.
Wait, right there. He took a job with To the Stars Academy. Well, I don't know about you, but every job I've ever had came with a paycheck. But what about Lue Elizondo's statement? Ross Coulthart just said he took a job with To the Stars Academy, right? But in his statement, he said, "You have had 7 years of my efforts for free, which have nearly bankrupted me and my family, and lived in a trailer for nearly 2 years." But Ross Coulthart just said he took a job with TTSA, which would mean he got a paycheck, right? So is he lying here when he says, "You have had my efforts for free"? I would think so. If he took a job about UFOs and took a paycheck, did he take a paycheck for the television show? Did he take a paycheck for those speaking engagements? Lue Elizondo is a proven liar. Full stop.
UFO research and advocacy group funded by rock star Tom DeLonge.
False. The To the Stars was not funded by Tom DeLonge. It was funded by public investors who were told that Tom DeLonge and Lue Elizondo and Hal Puthoff and everybody getting a paycheck from TTSA were going to build a spaceship with a, quote, revolutionary power source that would change the world. And they may have alien crash retrieval materials in their possession. It wasn't funded. This is factually inaccurate. It wasn't funded by Tom DeLonge. It was funded by public investors and has been called a, quote, techno scam, unquote. Get your facts right, Coulthart.
Together, they appeared on History Channel's Unidentified.
Again, did they get a paycheck for that? I would think so. Lue Elizondo said you got all of this for free, but yet he got a paycheck. So which is it, Lue Elizondo, Mr. Truth and Transparency? And again, I challenge Lue Elizondo, publish your tax returns for the past 6 or 7 years. Show us that you weren't lying in this statement where you said you have had 7 years of my efforts for free, which have nearly bankrupted me and my family, while he's wearing a $10,000 watch on his Joe Rogan appearance. Great. What a liar.
Side America's UFO investigation, which garnered him even more fame. Someone even started selling t-shirts with his face, but that attention came at a price. There were a lot of positives, but things also were about to get bad, weren't they?
I did not think that our lives would be this turned inside out.
I don't know about his wife, but my wife would tell me to stop grifting and get a real job, especially after it became clear that millions of dollars were collected by TTSA, and TTSA didn't do any of the things that they were promising investors. But hey, maybe that's just my wife. Maybe, my wife lives like me, simple and cheap. We don't like expensive things. So who knows? And I don't know, maybe his wife is like that too, but she seems to be right here to help her husband make these UFO dollars.
Many years. It's exhausting. It's exhausting.
You suffered retribution, and in fact, the Office of Special Investigations in the Air Force began a criminal investigation against you, didn't they?
Yeah. Why did they begin an investigation? Oh, it's because apparently somebody took 3 videos out of the Pentagon that were not meant for public distribution. They were only cleared for internal use only as training. And in those forms, those 3 objects in the gimbal, go fast, and tic tac videos were labeled UAV, UAS, balloons, drones. In other words, unmanned aerial vehicles, unmanned aerial systems, balloons, or drones. Meaning that Lue Elizondo knew they weren't anything alien when he requested they be released for internal use only. Then somehow those 3 videos, which he got declassified for internal use, somehow made their way out to the Pentagon parking lot to a waiting Christopher Mellon, who then went right over to TTSA with those 3 videos. And then Lue got a job the very same week that happened, or the week after that happened. And they started the TTSA, what has been called the TTSA, quote, techno scam, unquote. So it's no surprise that the government would investigate that, because those videos were never meant to be taken out of the Pentagon and then used by a private organization to profit from UFO fans for years to the tune of millions of dollars. I believe that an investigation should be ongoing into that matter. If you or I took classified materials that were, even if they were unclassified but not meant for public distribution, if you or I took those materials out of the Pentagon and then profited from them, got television show deals, book deals, live speaking engagement deals, we, normal people, would be prosecuted for that. I'm not sure to this day why he wasn't prosecuted criminally for the entire TTSA fiasco. But just to be clear, I'm not a law enforcement officer. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what happened with that situation entirely. But it's very, very shady.
They did.
What happened with that?
The initial allegation was that I was responsible for unauthorized disclosure, and then I stole classified videos out of the Pentagon and a whole bunch of stuff. And long story short, the Air Force OSI came back and said, nope, actually we seized the computers. There's no wrongdoing. Didn't take anything home.
Interesting. The 3 videos were confirmed to be unclassified, but they were not confirmed to be used by private citizens to profit off of UFO fans and get TV show deals. So even if it wasn't illegal, it was extremely shady what happened in that circumstance.
And he never had a conversation about anything classified. Everything's unclassified.
Publicly, the Pentagon has also denied Lue's claim that he was the head of ATIP, both in prior public statements and directly to News Nation for this report, effectively calling him a liar and a fraud.
Yeah, they are calling him a liar and a fraud. Do you know why? Because he is. Listen, regardless of how corrupt and really despicable the United States government can be at times, they're very careful when somebody is making these kind of public claims. And the Pentagon has issued multiple statements refuting that Lue Elizondo ever ran a real or funded Pentagon UFO program. And yeah, they effectively called him a fraud and a liar. But that hasn't stopped him from making excuses and continuing to profit from stupid people.
ISIS, Al Qaeda, whatever. Those don't scare me. Those don't bother me. What bothers me is when people question my loyalty, my intentions of what I'm trying to do.
Well, so far, all the evidence supports that what you're trying to do is profit from stupid people who will believe your false claims of running a Pentagon UFO program you never actually ran. I mean, actions speak louder than words. What has he produced in 7 years except a lot of income for himself? Nothing of value.
That's deep.
What do you think yourself of the fact that the Pentagon, as you describe it, has been actively trying to discredit Lue?
I think it's shameful. This is how you're repaid. It makes no sense to me.
Maybe your husband shouldn't have been grifting for 7 years, lady, right? Maybe he shouldn't have been lying to the New York Times about running a Pentagon program that he never ran, that was just made up, that was a hobby, right? Oh, that terrible government telling the truth that he never ran a UFO program. He basically sent a complaint into the Inspector General that, the way I read it, was like, these people in the government are messing up my UFO grift, saying I never ran a government UFO program. That's because you didn't, Lue Elizondo.
It makes no sense.
We need to have an intelligence community that is willing to speak truth to power. Here comes a guy who does that and clearly is correct.
I agree. Patty says Elizondo is an embarrassment
for identifying a huge, major vulnerability in
Mr.
America's air defense.
Ethics was connected to Guantanamo Bay.
No, he gets harassed by these bureaucrats.
That's what he says.
Because
he claims he was
that is inconvenient.
On top of
he
the
was the
reputational
torture
attacks,
czar.
Lue and his family were uprooted from their home as Lue's new job at To the Stars Academy called him to California. Then the job fell through. You'd essentially gone from fairly steady jobs, well paid in Maryland.
The job fell through. The job didn't fall through. Lue Elizondo left, and he told Jeremy McGowan he left because Tom DeLonge was wasting all the money on pet projects and stupid movies instead of their stated mission. The job didn't fall through. He quit.
And you'd basically taken a complete financial bath.
I had to get a job at Target.
Oh, so
and
sad.
Then after that, I got a job at Home Depot.
Oh,
The family
so
went from their
sad.
house in Maryland to this mobile home. Does it frustrate?
Now, this is where it's crazy because according to public documents, I believe he owns at least one home, maybe several. But hey, feel sorry for me. I took a financial bath and we went bankrupt, and my wife had to get a job, and we're living in a trailer. Then get a job, Lue Elizondo. Don't let your wife support your family then. Stop the grift and go back to a real job.
Frustrate you sometimes that people perhaps don't understand the sacrifice that you and Lue and your family have had to endure?
Yeah, especially because everyone thinks we have all this money. Oh, they're just grifting.
I agree.
Come live
Oh,
for
they're
a
just
day
grifting.
in my life. I guarantee.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to get a timestamp. About 32 minutes in, she says, oh, we're just grifting. I'm clipping that. We're going to use that. Oh, we're just grifting.
You will run back to yours.
Why is this worth it, Lou? I mean, you were a DS-15 in the senior executive service of the...
It's worth it because what he's not telling you and why he won't release his tax returns is because, and this is my personal belief and speculation, and I freely admit that, I believe he's made hundreds of thousands of dollars off of the UFO thing. Why else would you put your family through it if it wasn't lucrative?
Defense Department. You ended up having to dig your own pit toilet. You couldn't continue to pay your rent. Why is it worth it?
I have 2 daughters and I have a wife, and we have been through hell. But there's a lot of people who had a lot worse than me. I feel terrible because the stress I have put my family through and what they've had to endure.
Subway uniform would
Some
look good
relief
on
finally
Lue
came
Elizondo.
in April 2021 when Senator...
And there is now Stephen Greenstreet of the New York Post is saying that Lue Elizondo wrote this letter. He has a source who claimed, I should be very clear here. Stephen Greenstreet in a recent space said that he has a source who claimed that Lue Elizondo wrote this letter, the only so-called proof that he was the director of ATIP. And by the way, let's just recognize for a second that Harry Reid is a terrible source because he was in on a scheme to defraud the U.S. government out of $22 million, in my opinion, which was given to his campaign donor, Bob Bigelow, to study his own spooky ranch that he owned. Does that sound shady to you, that a senator would get $22 million in taxpayer-funded money and give it to a campaign contributor in a no-bid sweetheart deal contract and say, here, take this $22 million and use it to study the spooky ranch that you own? Bob Bigelow's a billionaire. Why did he need $22 million in taxpayer money? Well, if you know anything about wealthy people, one thing that they're real big on is never use your own money for something if you can use the government's money or other people's money for it.
Harry Reid wrote a letter confirming Lue's role in ATIP.
It's in black and white.
Personal vindication.
Yes. So there's one letter from Harry Reid, which a source familiar with this told Stephen Greenstreet that Lue Elizondo actually wrote the letter and Harry Reid just signed it. Now I'm still waiting to see some more reporting and confirmation of that. So take from that what you will. A single source claimed that Lue Elizondo wrote the letter and Harry Reid just signed it. And I have to admit, I don't know that that is factually correct or accurate, but that's a claim that's being made. And that's the only so-called evidence or proof that he ran this program he claimed he ran. Meanwhile, there's at least 4 or 5 statements from the Pentagon that say he never ran the program that he claimed. He had no assigned responsibilities around aliens or UFOs while he worked at the Pentagon. So take from this what you will. But why is it always that these UFO guys are so easily discreditable, right? Like Bob Lazar. Oh, you'll see headlines. Former government scientists claim to have work on alien spacecraft at Area 51. There's just one problem. Bob Lazar is not now, nor was he ever a scientist. He's a convicted pimp, fake scientist. So a lot of these guys, I swear, sometimes these things are government psyops, because why do they put people out? Why are these people so easily discreditable? Like Lue, oh, I ran a $22 million funded government program. And then we find out years later, no, you didn't. It was a hobby that you did while you worked at the Pentagon doing completely unrelated, boring things, unrelated to aliens or UFOs. They're always easy to discredit. And I don't think that this is by mistake. I think it's intentional that these mouthpieces, if it is indeed true, and many people have speculated that some of these people are just mouthpieces for the government, putting out disinformation, misinformation, and propaganda. A lot of people speculate to cover black projects, right? Because, hey, don't look for the latest, greatest drone technology we have. If you look up in the sky and see something really weird, you'll think it's aliens. I don't know if that's true, but it's too convenient that these guys are so easy to discredit as total bullshitters and frauds.
Aside, Elizondo says he's most proud of the momentous shift that's taken place in the national conversation on the UAP question, both among the general public and on Capitol Hill. In 2022, lawmakers passed legislation that called on the DoD to create a UAP office which would report to Congress. That office is...
Yeah, because we haven't wasted enough money on spooky alien hunting based on zero evidence. And I, for one, am a taxpayer. You know how many homeless people there are in California? You know how many homeless people there are in New York City right now? That money could be so much better spent on real world problems. But instead, we get a bunch of UFO true believing zealots who somehow are forcing the government to waste money, time, resources, and taxpayer money on their personal beliefs that aliens are visiting Earth. And in some cases, even that interdimensional space monsters are murdering humans.
It's now known as the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO. You have come a long way since 2017. What's been achieved?
I'm most proud of the fact it's being openly discussed in the halls of the Pentagon. That means that the stigma, the taboo, is finally evaporating, and we can begin to see the topic more clearly.
Unidentified objects in any domain pose potential risks to safety and security, particularly from military personnel and capabilities.
With the testimony of the first AARO director, Sean Kirkpatrick, in 2023, it seemed like the UAP Renaissance had officially commenced. But would it really be an age of enlightenment?
What he was saying is not consistent with the truth. And when someone like that blatantly tells you something that is not true.
Yeah, basically, for those unaware, AARO's director, former director, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, basically came out and said, none of these people have any evidence. And I believe that that's a factually accurate statement, and not just based on his reporting, but on other sources that I have. And notice how they said, Lue Elizondo said, he's most proud that this is being discussed openly in the halls of Congress. Well, a former congressman just boldly said on Twitter that Lue Elizondo is full of shit, right? That's interesting. I'll see if I can't find that and pull that up. I believe I may have retweeted that. Former congressperson basically clipped Elizondo telling his evidence-free alien stories and basically said that there's no evidence of this. This is fairy tales. So yeah, you're right, Lue Elizondo. It's openly being discussed in Congress. And I want to take a moment while we're doing this to recognize researcher Steve Long, who made a very good point. Elizondo's claims on himself an ATIP. First, he said he was the former ATIP director. That was now this Lue Elizondo's whole story is being retconned right now. Later amended to former Pentagon official. First, he said it was an official program. That's now been amended to unofficial portfolio. First, he said it was funded with $22 million. Later amended to unfunded. All amended after skeptical researchers proved them to be false. So I truly believe that if people who were the skeptics here, like Keith Clore and Greenstreet and Mick West and John from the Black Vault, myself and others, hadn't accurately reported that Lue Elizondo was lying to everybody, he would have never changed these things. He would have kept right on lying to everybody. And here in a stunning video is ATIP contract focus. There was no contract. There was no ATIP contract. He's lying in the header of the slide that he's showing while he's being a paid speaker at an event. He was paid to speak at an event, and he's lying through his teeth here. ATIP contract focus, but wait a minute. There was no contract for ATIP. Full stop. There was no ATIP contract. Where is he, pardon me, where is he getting this slide from? ATIP contract focus. There was a contract, and they were supposed to study lift, propulsion, power generation, spatial temporal translation, signature reduction, technology integration, human effects, armament, human interface, configuration and structure, materials. Wait a minute. There was no ATIP contract. Lue Elizondo is right in this video being paid to speak in an event, and he's lying through his teeth. This man is a proven liar. Over and over and over again, it can be proven that this man is a liar. He took money and he lied that ATIP was a real program and that ATIP had a contract to focus on these research areas. No, they didn't. He lied and he took money while lying.
You've got a serious credibility problem.
Yeah, you do have a serious credibility problem.
Or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
On the 26th of July, 2023, Navy pilot Ryan Graves, Navy Commander David Fravor,
and big nothing burger,
Intelligence Officer David Grush testified at a congressional hearing heard around the world.
I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
How did it feel for you, that moment?
It was a very profound and proud moment for me. So you had 3 military personnel testifying on the reality of UAP. Now that's historic.
Whistleblower David Grush came,
and the main whistleblower, so-called whistleblower, David Grush, for 400 and what was it? How many days are we up to? 448 days now, has provided no evidence of the claims that he made. So what value does that have? What these people don't realize is that when you put a total bullshitter with no evidence up to Congress, and after some time passes and they realize, oh, this guy was just telling stories, he doesn't actually have any evidence, then it cheapens the whole subject. And people say, this is why people say this is all fake, because idiots like these activists put up a fake whistleblower. Real whistleblowers have evidence. These whistleblowers don't have any, but they've sure got lots of stories. And hey, don't worry, News Nation made a lot of money selling this bull.
On News Nation and made an earth-shattering claim.
Yeah, a claim, an evidence-free claim. And here we are, 448 days. How many days? Let me just check. I don't want to get it wrong. I had the graphic earlier, but I'm sorry, I'm getting confused here. Yeah, 448 days later, he hasn't proven a single one of his claims. What he has proven is that he's dumb enough to repeat completely and totally fake UFO stories like the Mussolini story, which involved William Brophy, known UFO hoax promoter, right? So stupid.
It felt, for a moment, like the dam was breaking, that full disclosure was about to happen.
The American people deserve to know the truth on this.
But it didn't work out like that. First, AARO denied David Grush's claims. Then, like Lue, Grush became the subject of a vicious discrediting campaign, including his own medical history.
And they try to discredit, just like they try to do me, just like they try to do anybody else who comes out and steps out of rank.
What's more,
they didn't need to try to discredit you. They did discredit you. You know why, Lue Elizondo? Because all you have is trust me, bro, stories from your wackadoo friends. All you have is lies that you ran a government program you never did. All you have is you and your buddies collecting millions of dollars in TTSA, promising people a goddamn spaceship. And you have to try to discredit you. You discredit yourself by your own activities. They don't need to try to discredit you. And by the way, you know what would be a great way to prove Dr. Kirkpatrick wrong? Throw down that evidence, Elizondo. Throw down the proof of alien bodies. Throw down the proof of alien spaceships and say, here's the proof, Dr. Kirkpatrick, you bitch. You lied to everybody. We have evidence. All Dr. Kirkpatrick is saying is that Grush, Elizondo, and all of these people have stories and no evidence. He's the one who made the analogy of a self-licking ice cream cone. These people are simply repeating stories, and that's it.
Or AARO has publicly declared that it has found no evidence to support any claims of a government UAP retrieval program. As for the UAP captured on those famous videos, yes, they remain unidentified. But while the Pentagon says AARO will follow the data wherever it leads, it says it has not found any credible evidence of extraterrestrial activity. So do you think that people like Sean Kirkpatrick are operating according to a dictated agenda, that they're being told to try and suppress interest in the UAP?
What I can tell you is that what he was saying is not consistent with the truth. And when someone like that blatantly tells you something that is not true, you've got a serious credibility problem.
I love how when they do the back shot of Lue Elizondo, they blur out his big bald spot. Come on, dude. If you're bald in the back of your head, don't make the producers blur out your bald spot. But anyway, there's plenty to attack besides this clown's appearance. Look, like I said, you want to prove that, you want to claim that he's not telling the truth, then show the evidence that you claim there is. You claim there's evidence of alien visitors. David Grush claims there's evidence of interdimensional space monsters murdering humans. Show the evidence. Call the bluff then. If Kirkpatrick is bluffing, call his bluff. And you notice how, look how animated he got. That's because he knows that Kirkpatrick is destroying him and his buddies' grifts, right? No evidence of extraterrestrial visitation. And he went further into basically saying, oh, and he also blew apart Lue Elizondo's fake ATIP claims in that AARO report. So Elizondo hates this guy. He's ruining his book sales. He's ruining his grifts. Well, I got bad news for you, Elizondo. Dr. Kirkpatrick is going to be back with more for you. He's got a lot more for you. Did you know that? Do you know why he's been quiet lately? Well, maybe, just maybe, he's working on something, Lue Elizondo. And you, sir, are going to be blown to bits when he finally spills all the beans. And I, for one, can't wait for it.
Dr. Kirkpatrick told News Nation, at no time did I provide false information to Congress. In fact, my team provided actual evidence, something that all of the other claimants have failed to do. Why haven't you appeared before Congress yet? There must have been numerous opportunities.
Well, sure, but there's only been one public hearing so far. There's going to be more.
Right.
And it's not.
He can't appear before Congress because he'd be forced to defend lying to the New York Times about running a government program. You know, imagine him sitting in front of Congress and one of the Congress people, I don't know, watches Stephen Greenstreet or Truth Seekers or John from the Black Vault or reads Keith Clore's articles or reads Art Levine's articles and suddenly starts asking him about the TTSA thing, which has been described as a techno scam. Suddenly starts asking him, why did you lie to the New York Times? You never ran a funded Pentagon UFO program. Suddenly it becomes clear why Mr. Elizondo has never testified.
Up to me, but I can tell you I've been asked, and my response was absolutely, I will testify.
He's been asked, then why didn't he testify? He could have testified at that Grush hearing, right?
Lue's a patriot, isn't he?
Yes.
Oh, real patriot, yeah.
What's driving him?
He feels that humanity is owed this information.
Oh, yeah.
People should
It's
know
all true.
we are not
You
alone.
know it's all true.
No government has the right to keep that hidden.
Well, wouldn't Elizondo be the gatekeeper then? Why doesn't he provide the evidence that he pretended that he had, right? Gabbard Beast TV is here and says, Stephen, you should ruin Elizondo's book sales too. Expose this lying sack of crap. Well, we do our best to get to the truth, right? Operation Shutdown says, this is getting good. We're going to be wrapping things up here. We've only got a few minutes of this video left. Then we'll take comments and questions from the live chat.
To agree, as interest in the UAP question continues to intensify, both online and at UAP conferences around the country. Plus, there's been a veritable avalanche.
Yeah, and I think they're showing that UAP scientific organization that has to ban journalists who go in their Facebook groups and tell people the truth. You got to love a science organization that can't let a reporter report in their Facebook group. Those guys are intellectual weaklings and cowards, right? They run the Facebook group. UFOs, a serious look, but you're not allowed in there if you're actually investigating these people making these claims and finding out that they're lying, grifting scumbags. And let's be clear, these people are lying, grifting scumbags. Well, let me clarify that. Well, I mentioned I was talking to a source over the weekend, and we both agree that some of these people are lying, grifting scumbags, and they know that it's fake, and they know that they're lying. But some of these people just believe any of it. They want so desperately to believe. So I guess there's categories. Some of them are pure grifters. And I've been told that Ross Coulthart knows this is all fake, but because of fiasco at 60 Minutes Australia and calling a bunch of British lawmakers child predators with no evidence and getting caught that story was fake, he can't get a real job. So he has to do this to make a living. That's one category, the people who really know this is fake and they run this grift anyway. And then certainly there are people that truly believe it's all real, right? One can speculate about every personality in the UFO community. Which one is it? Are they one of the scumbag grifters that know it's all fake and push it anyway? Or are they true believers? You decide, friends. And let me know what you think in the comments in the live chat. We'll be taking questions and comments from the live chat in just a moment.
Of former military officers coming forward with similar claims, including Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet.
And here we go with the circle jerk. Carl Nell, Tim Gallaudet, David Grush, Lue Elizondo. They are each using the other's statements as proof. But neither of these four individuals, I'm going to list them again, Lue Elizondo, David Grush, Carl Nell, and Tim Gallaudet. Neither of these four people have provided any evidence or proof of their claims on their own. But yet each of them uses the other guy to back up their claims. So what we have is four evidence-free storytellers who are telling you this is all real, the aliens are definitely here, and yet none of them have any evidence of that. But when asked specifically, what proof did Carl Nell have, he cites Lue Elizondo and David Grush as proof. So what we have is a circle jerk for wackadoos, also known as the Wackadoo Prover Maneuver. What's the Wackadoo Prover Maneuver, you might ask? Well, if you're a regular viewer, you know what the Wackadoo Prover Maneuver is. But if you're new to the channel, I will explain. The Wackadoo Prover Maneuver is when one wackadoo who has absolutely no evidence of his claims, like Carl Nell, is asked for the evidence of his claims, and he cites another wackadoo who equally has zero evidence of his claims as proof. You understand now? It is one big circle jerk, one big self-licking ice cream cone. In other words, a Wackadoo Prover Maneuver. What's your evidence that aliens are visiting Earth, Carl Nell? Well, just look to the statements of Lue Elizondo and David Grush. And nobody goes further and says, but wait a minute, Carl Nell. Neither Lue Elizondo or David Grush has ever provided any evidence of their claims. So how can you use them as proof of your claims? The truth is, in the real world, you can't. But welcome to the UFO Clown Show, where you can do the Wackadoo prover maneuver. You want to make bold claims like alien space monsters are killing humans. They're murdering Earthlings. Interdimensional space monsters. I always get emails if I don't put the interdimensional part. Grush didn't say that they were aliens. He said they might be interdimensional beings. Whatever. Interdimensional beings with spaceships are murdering humans. Has no evidence of that whatsoever. Tim Gallaudet has never seen anything himself. He has no personal experience. He's just a fan of Lue Elizondo, Dave Grush, and these other wackadoos. And we covered a whole interview with this guy. He's going to be the USO guy, unidentified submersible objects, right? And he's made a plethora of completely and totally evidence-free claims. And now Lue Elizondo is doing the Wackadoo prover maneuver, saying multiple military people are coming out and saying that this is all true. Ross Coulthart and Elizondo just forget to tell you that none of those military people. Oh, yeah, the APAC. It's a scientific conference, but they have to ban reporters. They have to ban reporters to tell the truth. Some science organization. God, what weaklings. Intellectual weaklings and cowards. Why don't you let me come and debate at your organization? I'll debate any of these people, and I will wipe the floor with you with facts, evidence, logic, and good critical thinking skills. They don't want that. It'll ruin the grift. But here again is Lue Elizondo and Ross Coulthart using the Wackadoo prover maneuver. That's when one Wackadoo, Lue Elizondo, who has zero evidence of his fantastical out-of-this-world claims, uses other Wackadoos who have equally zero evidence of their claims as proof. It's the Wackadoo prover maneuver. None of these so-called military people, and notice they love people with military credentials because that makes it more believable.
At UAP conferences around the country. Plus, there's been a veritable avalanche of former military officers coming forward with similar claims.
I wouldn't call it a veritable avalanche. And by the way, multiple people making similar claims, when all of those people making similar claims all have no evidence, is not proof of anything except maybe they're buddies. And yes, David Grush, Lue Elizondo, Tim Gallaudet, and Carl Nell are all buddies, and many of them are involved in these organizations that want to basically scam the government out of tax money to study UFOs, in my opinion, allegedly. Oh, God.
Including Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet,
who's provided exactly zero evidence of his claims.
And Colonel Carl Nell.
And Carl Nell, when asked for proof of his claims, cited Lue Elizondo and Dave Grush, who equally have no evidence of their claims. You see the problem here with this? This is why I call it a circle jerk. It's one big... these guys are just all, oh, UFOs, the aliens are real. My boner, my disclosure boner. And they're all in a circle together doing that. The aliens are real. Pass it on. Yeah, the aliens really are real. Keep it going. It's all one big circle jerk, friends.
Non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new.
And military...
Yeah, but what they cut out of that is right after he said that non-human intelligence is real, they're interacting with humanity. Right after he said that, the interviewer said, what is your best evidence of that? And what did Carl Nell say? Well, just look at the statements of people like Lue Elizondo and David Grush. One big evidence-free circle jerk of wackadoos, friends. Wake up. These people are taking you for a ride. I love how they always say, buckle up. Yeah, you know who else tells you to buckle up? Somebody that's about to take you for a ride.
Grade UAP videos are now popping up regularly, like this one over Puerto Rico.
Which proves nothing, could be a balloon.
This one along the Arizona border.
Proves nothing. People have speculated that it's a bag flying in the wind. Is this the best you got, Lue Elizondo? Is this the best you got, Ross Coulthart? You're at the top of the UFO grifter food chain, and the best you can do is a likely balloon video and a likely bag floating in the wind video?
And this one over an undisclosed conflict zone in the Middle East.
This is more than intriguing, more than provocative. It's potentially revolutionary and transformational.
Or it's a balloon and a bag floating in the wind.
What can
and not aliens?
What shouldn't any citizen do? How can they help you?
They got to give you money. Buy his book.
Talk to your members of Congress.
You got to go buy the book.
Whether it's around the dinner table or the water cooler, that's what I would encourage people to do. Start
Chinese
asking the
spy
hard
balloon.
questions.
Good possibility.
So Lue Elizondo, crystal ball. Let's go 1, 2 years.
And when they come, it's very
are we
messy.
going to be as much in the dark then as we are now?
No, but you know, disclosure isn't a sprint.
Oh, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, because I need to sell a couple more books before everybody finally wakes up and realizes I'm a proven liar. And I'm sitting next to another proven liar being interviewed about the lies that I've been telling for years. The evidence-free stories. There's no proof. It's one big circle jerk. Eat that nothing burger. Buy the book. Buy the documentary. And keep chasing that carrot, because disclosure is going to come soon. But it's a sprint. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. That gives him plenty of time to sell more books, sell more documentaries, and more evidence-free stories.
Disclosure isn't an event. It's a process. I think this next generation, if our kids are any indicator of hope,
oh, they'll get us disclosure.
That's where real disclosure is going to occur.
They'll get us disclosure. Our kids will get us disclosure. Wow. And there we have it. Confessions of a UFO hunter. I don't know. I'm left laughing at this. Maybe I'm just too far along in my skeptical view. You know, I bet you there was a time maybe 10 or 20 years ago when I would have been completely enthralled by this video. But when you look at it at the kind of face value, especially at the end there, where we can demonstrably prove that they're citing each other as evidence. Oh, look, there's a whole bunch of UFO revelations coming from former military insiders. The revelations are stories, evidence-free stories. And when asked for evidence, they cite each other. It's one big circle jerk, friends. Welcome to UFO land. It's a strange place. And yeah, so we'll take some comments and questions from the live chat. I appreciate your indulgence. I really didn't think it was going to take this long to get through all of this. Troll says these Boeing astronauts are going to be stuck up in space station until next year. Yeah, and I think it's funny, you know, regardless of what you think of Elon Musk, I'm kind of a fan of just the way he handles himself. Like when he did that interview and he was like, I'm not going to be bribed by advertising dollar, F off, you know? But anyway, Elon Musk posted an article that was like, can David take on Goliath? Can SpaceX take on Boeing? And it was from years ago. And now SpaceX has to bail out Boeing. And isn't it interesting that in a very short time, SpaceX will be doing one space launch a day. Can you believe that? Every day they're going to be sending a rocket into space. That's pretty amazing progress in a relatively short amount of time. And regardless of if you're a fan of Musk or not, he's killing Boeing. He's killing Jeff Bezos' company, and he's killing NASA. And that's a little sad. I grew up with NASA, watching the space missions and the space shuttle. Was a big fan, but they haven't done anything. They don't do anything anymore. Why do we even have NASA if private companies are doing it all for them, like SpaceX? But for those unaware, these astronauts were supposed to go on an 8-day mission, and now it's going to turn into an 8-month mission. They're stuck on the International Space Station, and Elon Musk's SpaceX has to do a launch with a capsule and get them off the space station. So it's kind of, You have to laugh, right? Boeing, the giant of aerospace, is getting killed by SpaceX. They have very good technology. Have to laugh. NASA is trying to say the risk was acceptable. Well, you know, you're talking about, what is it, 2 people's lives, and there's some kind of malfunction in the space capsule, which means they have like I've heard varying percentages, but one article I read said they have like a 20 to 30% chance of burning up if they try to take that capsule into Earth. I don't know about you, but I'd wait for Elon Musk's spaceship capsule to come and get me if it was my decision to make and my life at risk. Whatever happened to Charlie Bronson? He died some years ago. My father was a big fan of Charlie Bronson movies, right? Bob Marley, let's drive our kids nuts with new age shite. Yeah. So questions or comments for me, please put them in all capital letters. We will check in with the PayPal pledges. I believe we've read all the super chats. For those unaware, we read every single super chat. That means if you send a super chat during a live broadcast, we read it. We thank you. You can write any message that you want, but please be kind. And also, you could send a PayPal pledge. And we've got several of those to read out. We have a message from AM in a kind and generous $25 PayPal pledge. And AM says, keep up the good work. A voice of reason prevails. Thank you, and long live Truth Seeker Show. Love the synth music at 2 times playback speed. The algorithm, the French band, that kind of heavy sound might inspire you. Thank you, AM. And for those unaware, you can also, besides sending a super chat, send a PayPal pledge or buy me a coffee. Instructions in the description of the video. Thank you, AM, for helping us to praise the cash.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, we've got a few more kind and generous PayPal pledge benefactors. We want to thank DB, no message, DB with a kind and generous $10 PayPal pledge. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Thank you for appreciating us. We sure appreciate you and anybody helping us to praise the cash.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, and we've got one more. And that is AM, Village Floral House. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. A kind and generous $5 PayPal pledge. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
And we've got Maria, the MVP of PayPal pledgers, with a kind and generous $100 PayPal pledge. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. We thank you for helping us to praise the cash, and we'll give a praise the cash and thank you to our Patreon supporters and our YouTube channel members who also help us to praise the cash on a monthly basis. For those unaware, you can join our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You set the amount, whatever you like, on Patreon. And our YouTube channel membership is $5 a month. You get all the same extra goodies and benefits as you do on Patreon, but you get one of those. You get some YouTube extra goodies like a channel member badge, letting everybody in the live chat know you're a big supporter of the show. Thank you all for helping us to praise the cash.
You're watching Truth Seekers. Praise the cash, praise the cash.
Wow. And we want to give a very big shout out to Mike Larry. For those unaware, Mike Larry was the guy buying all of those free YouTube memberships that all you guys have been enjoying. By the way, some of you cheap people just took the free membership and then you didn't give me the $5 the next month, but I understand. It's a tough economy. Hey, brother, can you spare $1, right? But Mike Larry realized that YouTube can take 30%. Or does take 30% of all the income here in the form of the super chats, super thanks, super stickers, and gifted YouTube memberships. So if you have a large amount that you would like to share with us, and we do appreciate you big donors. You keep us going. Well, every donor keeps us going. But we have to take a moment to thank and recognize you kind and generous people who are sending so much through either PayPal, and we encourage you, if you are going to send a PayPal pledge, or excuse me, if you're going to send a large amount, please do both of us a favor, because I'm sure you want us to keep more of your gift and your pledge. Please do us a favor. If you're going to send a large amount, send it through Buy Me a Coffee or send it through PayPal, because in that circumstance, they only take a couple of percentages of it. And so we're able to keep much, much more of the gift that you send. So we want to thank Mike Larry for a kind and generous. He bought 32 coffees, and those are $5 a piece, so that's $160. Thank you so much for your kindness, generosity, and support. Mike Larry, making it rain up in here. Thank you very much for your kindness, generosity, and support, all of you. If anybody has any more support to send, please do it in the next few minutes. We'll be wrapping things up here. And I just want to make a few show announcements. Some of you are aware that I have been very busy. Summers are very busy for me. All year long, I work on this cabin that belongs to my wife and myself. During the summer, it belongs to her. My wife doesn't really enjoy the cabin during the winter months at all. She doesn't like it. And I don't blame her. It's brutally cold there. We're in the highest elevation in the Pennsylvania mountains where the cabin is. It can get to be -20 on some winter cold nights. I kind of like that. I don't know. I go there regardless of how cold it is because the cabin is very well built. It's incredibly well insulated. 2-foot thick log walls. So, but my wife doesn't like that. And she is kind of nervous about the children, and I don't blame her. So she really gets all of her cabin time in the summer. And so I've been very busy trying to soak up as much of that as possible, doing all the cookouts, going to all the lakes in the local area, doing all the hiking and all the fishing. And for those that have asked, my family, my whole family, we do a fishing tournament every year. And our little cash clown is killing me this year. I'm up to 6 fish. I have caught 6 fish during this entire summer. And the little cash clown, Xavier, who you see in the Praise the Cash bumpers, he has caught 32 fish. 32 fish. And he's also caught the biggest fish, which is incredible. I'm going to take credit for that because I taught him to fish. He's only 8 years old. So an 8-year-old boy, and by the way, he's baiting his hook. He's starting to, if the line gets snagged and cut and he has to cut it, he's able to, rejigger the line and put the bobbers on and the hook on and everything. It's amazing. 8 years old, 32 fish. He's way far in the lead. I think the next person that's closest to him has 16 fish or something, maybe 12. I think that's my wife is in second place. I'm in almost last place. I don't know. I didn't have very much luck this year. But in any case, I'm meandering here into the weeds. Summer is the busiest time of the year for me. And I work very hard on the cabin and everything. So during the summer, I like to help my family enjoy that cabin to its fullest. So I've been very, very busy. And as such, sometimes I go on Thursday and we don't come back until Sunday or Monday. It just depends on my wife's schedule. So in any case, there's been a decrease, obviously, in shows, output, in special events here, in everything for the summer. And I don't take weeks off at a time, ever. I've only taken one. I took 1 3-week sabbatical, and really that was for medical reasons during the entire, 4-year run of Truth Seekers. But I do take those weekends off. We try to give you the replays. In any case, we've had a reduced output. And YouTube won't let me forget that. Like, your views are down. Make more content, And in any case, next weekend is the last weekend with my family for the cabin for a little while. My wife's probably going to come once in the fall, and we're going to visit Bushkill Falls. You can look it up on the internet. Bushkill Falls is right near my cabin. It's beautiful. One of the most beautiful scenic waterfalls you'll ever see is right near our cabin. We're probably doing that sometime in the fall. But otherwise, I'm going to have more free time. And also, during the summer months, I'm daddy daycare. My children, both of them are home. I'm just incredibly busy during the summer. And every year I notice, too, that when it's summertime in the United States, at least, the viewership drops because people are outside and they're riding bikes and hiking and doing all these things. So we sort of pull back a little bit. But that period is ending starting next week. My children will be in school. We'll be done with the summer at the cabin. I'm still going to be going to the cabin because I'm building a new cabin. But I won't be as busy. And my children will be at school all day, which means I have more time. And for those unaware, even though we do the show at night, if I have free time during the day, I'm researching stories, writing scripts, booking guests, doing all the support work, graphics, thumbnails, video editing, whatever I need to do for the show. So for those that have asked, why are you doing so few shows a week? We've been doing 2 or 3. It's going to go back up to 4 or 5, starting very shortly. If you have show suggestions, please do put them in the description, or pardon me, put them in the comments section or in the live chat. And we will be looking for new show topics, new show guests. So if you have some suggestions, now is the time. Aaron Flores says 32 fish. That's a lot. I think so. He's really taken to it, Aaron. Like he's a natural. I'm going to get him in the fishing tournament next year, like a public fishing tournament. They have many around the cabin. He's learning a lot about bait and lures and, good methods. He's got good technique. Like he doesn't just cast and leave it. He slowly reels it in, trying to get some interest. He moves the rod around. He's doing great. I'm very proud of him. All right. So questions or comments for me, please put them in all capital letters. Hank McGurk is proud of me. Well, I'm proud of you too. Right. And JLW says family first. Yeah, I totally agree with that. The most important thing in my life is my family. And the only irreplaceable thing in my life is my family. Everything else I could do without, right? But not them. And it really is important to me. For those unaware, or if I haven't mentioned it, I spent every summer at a little cottage that my parents owned near a lake in New Jersey, right next to Fort Dix Army Base and McGuire Air Force Base. And to this day, some of my best childhood memories are spending summers at that little cottage. So I think a big part of me wanted to recreate that experience for my own children. And also, for those unaware, my oldest son, who's 12 now, is nonverbal autistic. He doesn't speak, or he barely speaks. He speaks a little bit, but mostly requests for food and, basic needs. But one of the things that Zachary, my autistic's eldest son, really, really loves is swimming. So around the cabin, there's all these lakes. We let him swim, and there's a pool in the cabin community where we're in as well. So I guess if you're a parent of a child with special needs, you can relate to this. It's kind of, it's sad a lot of times being the parent of a special needs child, because there's many things they just can't do or won't do. But those times where I get to observe my son just enjoying himself and being a kid alleviate a lot of that. Just seeing that smile on his face. He'll swim for hours. He loves it. We have to go in and get him sometimes and pull him out. He won't get out. So for this and many other reasons, and the quality family time, recreating, I want my children to have great memories of that cabin. And I'm sure our little cash clown, who is learning fishing and outdoor things and, camping and survival skills and bushcraft skills, he's going to inherit that cabin someday and maybe make some memories for his own family. In any case, the cabin's incredibly important to me. And that brings me to another announcement. Before the end of the winter, I'm finishing a book, maybe two. And I know this isn't the audience for it, but the book that is near completion is about building cabins and the benefit of cabins, both physically, psychologically, mentally. And that book is called Build a Cabin, Change Your Life. I've got a new YouTube channel called Build a Cabin, Change Your Life as well. I'll be working during winter. If I'm at the cabin and it's too cold to work outside, and most of the time it is, I'll be working on the book. And the other book is certainly going to be about the wacky world of UFO land. So I'm going to have a busy winter too, but I think the fall will be very media and content rich here. So let me know your suggestions. What do you want to see? What is it? What guests would you like us to have here? What directions do you want to see the show in? Do you want to see more? A lot of people are telling me that they're getting sick of the UFOs and aliens, even though that's our primary thing here. But I'm down to talk about anything except politics. I want to stay out of politics. But interestingly, on that note, today, Mark Zuckerberg filed a letter, which is very disturbing, which essentially confirms that the United States government, I don't want to get it wrong here, I want to address the contributions I made during the last presidential cycle to support electoral infrastructure. The idea here was to make sure a local election jurisdiction across the country with resources they needed to help people vote safely. Oh, no, that's not what I'm looking for. Oh, here it is. And here, I'll share my screen because, listen, I don't talk politics here, but no matter what side of the aisle that you are on, this is very, very disturbing. And this was the most disturbing to me, the bottom here. In a separate situation, the FBI warned us, this is Mark Zuckerberg filing a letter with Congress, warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption allegations involving then Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it while waiting for a reply. It's since been made clear that that reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story. We've changed our policies and processes to make sure this doesn't happen again. For instance, we no longer temporarily demote things in the U.S. while waiting for fact checkers. So what that proves is that the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation actively, whether they intended to or not, interfered with the 2020 election by getting Facebook, and some say other media companies and social media companies, to ban or not allow the laptop story to be seen by United States citizens. That's very, very disturbing, and it should concern all of us. If that story had been allowed to be shared openly and then it was talked about openly, that, I believe, would have affected the outcome of the election. Not that I'm a Donald Trump fan and want him to win, but I want the system to be fair. It is far, far from fair. Now we've got the stunning revelations that somehow the Biden administration fudged the numbers and created 80,000 jobs that weren't there. This is why I don't do politics. It's so corrupt, friends. It's so corrupt. Michael Siebold says, topics. Sure. Aaron Flores says, I'd build a cabin in the desert, UFO watch at night for real. Yeah, and that's other news, Aaron. I got a really good telescope that allows me to connect my phone to it and take pictures. I've done some preliminary tests, and the tests were good. We're going to be doing sky watches from the cabin, I hope. Yes, Admiral Rascal says, Zuckerberg is Lure, Data's evil twin. He sure acts like a robot sometimes. Sunlover 5000 says, no kidding, Sherlock, kind of known. Yeah, but now it's confirmed. So before, Sunlover, if you would say that they did that, people would say, well, there's no evidence of that. Now we've got Mark Zuckerberg confirming that the United States government essentially leaned on them to censor stories critical of Biden. It's stunning. That means the FBI actively interfered with an ongoing election in favor of one candidate. They're supposed to be nonpartisan, meaning they shouldn't take political sides. There's something really, really not right with him, dude. Reminds me of creepy Data from Star Trek. Rascals. Yeah. Zuckerberg is a robot. Pathfinder says, UFO Observatory Desert Retreat sounds awesome, Aaron Flores. I agree. Well, I guess I've rambled long enough. So the announcements really are, we're going to have more shows here. We're going to keep them mostly at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but I am considering doing a separate show called Truth Seekers Today, where we could just try new things. And if it doesn't work out, it's not our usual time slot or our usual show slot, so I won't be upset if we get half the views or whatever. Let me know what you think of a Truth Seekers Today show that would air at 1 p.m. Eastern Time and would be 1 or 2 hours long, like our, maybe 1 hour long would be better. So maybe 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. or 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Let me know what you think of the idea of exploring new topics under the title Truth Seekers Today. And we're going to at least give that a try. Also, I want to encourage you to check out the Murder in UFO Land series. I'm going to make a playlist. I keep forgetting to do that. And those of you who have asked, why is the audio podcast behind schedule? Kind of explain that, busy with the cabin stuff. But I will be getting that up to date later this evening. So I'm glad that you audio listeners are out there to let me know that I'm slacking. I'll try to not slack off so much. So what can I say, friends? To wrap up on Lue Elizondo, this guy's just another UFO messiah, and a false one at that. And in the history of people making these claims about alien bodies and alien crash retrievals, not a single person has ever provided real empirical proof or evidence of their claims. I think that sometimes history is our greatest teacher. We've now had Dave Grush make these claims, and 448 days later, he hasn't proved any of those claims. How long will we wait for Lue Elizondo to prove the very similar or same claims that he's making? I have a feeling it's going to be 448 days or more. We're starting a counter. So, yeah, what can I say, friends? That's all I got for you. I would caution you, before you believe any of these UFO messiahs, first of all, you have to fact check every single thing that they say. And you also have to be aware that sometimes they use scumbags like Ross Coulthart, who that dude, I swear to God, that dude would like bang his own mother in the butt on film to sell a story. Like, that's how I feel about Ross Coulthart. He'll do anything to sell a story. He doesn't care about the facts. He doesn't care about evidence. And when they say he's an award-winning journalist, what they forget to tell you is that he won the Bent Spoon Award in Australia for fakest stories of the year. Yeah, award-winning for how fake his stories are. You really need to be skeptical of these people. Be cautious. Be discerning. And don't allow them to remove your ability to critically think. Does this make sense that there's this vast, huge conspiracy involving tens or hundreds of thousands of people and nobody's ever able to ferret out proof of that conspiracy? Does it make sense that Lue Elizondo stories and Dave Grush stories have made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars without providing a single shred of any proof or evidence? Doesn't make sense to me. It's not the truth. It's UFO-tainment. Never forget that, friends. So that's all I got for you. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.
I'm an intel guy. Consciousness. I'm an intel guy. If I call your mother a hooker. If I call your mother a hooker. Consciousness. I'm an intel guy. Consciousness. I'm an intel guy. If I call your mother a hooker. If I call your mother a hooker. Consciousness. I'm an intel guy. Consciousness. I'm an intel guy. If I call your mother a hooker. If I call your mother a hooker. If I were to call your mother a prostitute. If I were to call your mother a prostitute. If I were to call your mother a prostitute. Prostitute, prostitute, prostitute.
Tell me a story, Papa Lou and Mr. Graves and Nolan. Tell me a story, Papa Lou and Mr. Graves and Nolan. Tell me a story, Papa Lou and Mr. Graves and Nolan. Tell me a story, Papa Lou and Mr. Graves and Nolan. Papa Lou, Papa Lou, Papa Lou.
I'm an intel guy.
Papa Lou, Papa Lou, Papa Lou.
I'm an intel guy.
Papa Lou, Papa Lou, Papa Lou.
I'm an intel guy.
Papa Lou, Papa Lou, Papa Lou.
I'm an intel guy.
We don't know precisely what UFOs are. We don't know precisely what UFOs are. These are transmedium vehicles. That's what they are. That's what they are. These are transmedium vehicles. That's what they are. That's what they are.
I won't sell